I call this meeting of the Conroe Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Let the record show that a quorum of members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The time is 6:01. Good evening. Thank you for showing up today. I'd like to turn some time over to Mr. Ray Sanders for our invocation, followed by Mr. Dayton Williams for our Pledge of Allegiance.
If you would, please join me in prayer. Our most gracious Lord, grant us peace today. Give us confidence in time of stress. Give us hope when we are fearful. Take away our worries and our anxieties and reassure us that you are with us. Ease our doubts and help us believe in your divine righteousness. God, we pray that you would guide us, O Lord, for it is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders and Mr. Williams. Moving on to item 2A, special board recognitions for STAR program graduates. Dr. Curtis Knoll.
Okay, well, this is, here we go. We're approaching Super Bowl week for the school district, as we'll start our graduations on Thursday. And it's around 5,000 seniors that we will all get the honor to recognize and give our well wishes to. And tonight we get an opportunity to recognize a special group of seniors that have been investing in themselves, and we've had great educators investing in them as well. So to make our introductions tonight, we have Ms. Denise Sapola.
Good evening, Dr. Knoll, President Hubert, and members of the board. The STAR program began 13 years ago with the purpose of helping students achieve. STAR began as a summer program that grew in popularity and success, and now today is thriving on each of the high school campuses. This year, the STAR counselors were creative in their efforts due to area closures and high levels of COVID cases in our community. Rather than taking field trips to community colleges, technical schools, and four-year universities, the STAR students took virtual tours related to post-secondary options. Rather than having motivational speakers come to the campus in the fall, they hosted Zoom speakers from the HEB headquarters in San Antonio. And during the spring semester, as levels of COVID decreased, we were able to take one group to visit Lone Star Community College. Unfortunately, the second group could not go, again, due to COVID, at their scheduled time. But on the campuses, the students and counselors held monthly meetings, had guest speakers, participated in team building exercises, hosted the incoming 8th graders for high school tours, and they made many great friendships and memories. With us tonight are Manuel Texador, who coordinates the STAR program at the district level, and a few of our campus counselors. From Caney Creek High School, Sophia Meza and Betty Ravada. From Grand Oaks High School, Valeria Fuller and Brittany Wasinski. Oak Ridge High School, Raquel Johnson. From College Park High School, Tammy Morrow. And from the Woodlands High School, Tracy Turner. We also have other counselors in the audience and teachers of our students, and thank you to all of our staff who have supported them. Tonight, we recognize a remarkable young lady from the Woodlands High School who would like to share a few words about what STAR has meant to her. I present to you Carolina Perales.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carolina Perales, and I am a senior at the Woodlands High School. I first joined the STAR group my freshman year of high school. At the beginning, I was not too enthusiastic about joining the group, since it was meant for students whose parents did not pursue a higher education after high school. I personally didn't want to carry the label with me, and I'm sure I was not the only one. Despite my negative association with the group, my mother urged me to stay and be a bit more open-minded. Now, 4 years down the road, I am thankful for listening to my mother's advice. After all, mothers do know best. The STAR group has helped me in many ways concerning my high school and future college education. The counselors involved worked hard to inform us students about potential career options, universities, and study tips. They would set up Zoom and in-person meetings with people who excelled in their professions to inform us of their careers. One of my personal favorite speakers was Miss Wilkes. She started her career as a school nurse in my campus, then later moved on to teach about her profession. My personal interest lies in the medical field, and having her speak really opened my eyes to more careers in that specific field. I did not know were even possible. Another speaker I found interesting was Mrs. Turner's husband, who works for a well-loved Texas-based grocery store, H-E-B. Her husband taught me the inner workings of the franchise and how products get sorted and distributed throughout all of Texas. The group also gives its students an opportunity to travel to college campuses to tour them. Unfortunately, we did not get to go to any universities this year, but we did have representatives from universities such as Texas State to do Zoom calls with us to inform us more about their campus, degrees, and student life. These Zoom calls gave me a better insight on the universities and if what they had to offer met my own personal needs. When we were not talking about colleges, we often touched on the subject of studying and making sure that we were on top of our classes and not slacking off. The counselors provided the group with study tips such as using a highlighter to better retain information, condensing notes, and even gave us a test to see what type of learner each of us were to better fit our needs in that area. The group has amplified my desire to strive for a higher education and driven me to really make the most out of my education career. I have no doubt that the road ahead of me will not be smooth, but I have the courage to face it head on. The courage I did not have as a freshman, but I have obtained throughout the program. I want to thank Mrs. Turner, Ms. Darden, and Ms. Jakeway for all of your hard work you have put into this group. And thank you to all the higher-ups who made this program possible for the students who truly need it the most. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce each of our STAR seniors to you that are with us tonight. And I guess, Ms. Wagaman, you're gonna, okay. So our first is Katie Elizondo from Caney Creek High School. Danielle Gubas. Caney Creek High School. Octavio Maldonado, Caney Creek High School. Julianne Spint, Caney Creek High School. From Grand Oaks High School, Jose Cruz Correz. And also from Grand Oaks High School, Morgan Kopek. Noel Chuto Solis, sorry about that, Oak Ridge High School. Jacqueline Hernandez, Oak Ridge High School. Abigail Elledge, the Woodlands College Park High School. Kimya Jones, the Woodlands College Park High School. And from the Woodlands High School, Carolina Perales. Thank you so much. Ms. Wagaman?
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations to each and every one of you. This has been a journey for each, and each of you has completed it. And what a wonderful opportunity for us to be the first ones to congratulate you this evening. I look forward to seeing what you do in the future, and we want to, of course, say thank you to all of our counselors who guided you and who you allowed into your lives and gave such trust and really just allowed them to give you the opportunity to better yourselves and do things that you may not have thought you had the ability to do. So I congratulate you all this evening, and we look forward to seeing you on the stage in a couple nights. So again, congratulations. Thank you.
Counselors, would you come through too? We'd love to shake your hand. Yeah. Please, if y'all would come through with them.
Congratulations to you. Congratulations to you.
Oh, I'm so overwhelmed. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
Congratulations again.
Outstanding. Great job. Great job.
Congratulations.
Great job.
Congratulations. Congratulations again. Congratulations.
Great job.
So happy for you.
Outstanding.
Congratulations.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Very happy. Outstanding.
Woo, thank you so much.
Wonderful job. Wonderful
Thank you
job.
for all you do.
Wonderful. That's outstanding.
So much. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Outstanding. What kind of medicine are you?
Thank you.
Okay. I say my nephew's a ER surgeon in Denver. I was going to say if you want to work something. God bless you. Thank you so much for all the work you do. Thank you. I thought there was a student for a second. Thanks so much for all you do. Thank you very much for all you do. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good seeing you. Thank you so much.
Well done. Thank you, Ms. Wagman, for your comments on behalf of the board.
It truly is the happiest time of the year.
It is. That's good stuff. Item 2B, special board recognition, Conroe Independent School District and the Fine Arts Department, NAMM Foundation Best Communities for Best Education Award. Dr. Knoll.
Okay, we'll ask Dr. Bob Horton to come forward and present this item.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. I am excited to share with you that Conroe ISD has received a 2022 designation as a Best Community for Music Education. Let me begin by thanking you, our Conroe ISD Board of Trustees, for your support of fine arts that allow opportunities like this to be possible. The Best Communities for Music Education Award is a nationwide recognition program that is selected by the National Association of Music Merchants, or NAMM Foundation. The foundation is a nonprofit organization committed to advancing music education through active participation. Established in 1999, the BCMEA survey is a nationwide search for communities who provide access to music education as an essential part of a complete education and who exemplify commitment and support for music education. So the 23rd annual survey that we filled out measured a variety of factors, including opportunities to learn music, the presence of highly qualified, certified music teachers, adherence to state and national standards, types of musical experiences offered, budgetary commitment to our music programs, and opportunities for performance and competition. Our community had the opportunity to show that we are committed to access and high standards for music education in all areas of the survey to be named a Best Community for Music Education. To earn this designation, we submitted a short little 38-page survey with information about our school district, our community, our instructional practices, and all the other factors I just mentioned. Of the 15,000 potential applicants across the United States to earn this designation, and one of the over 1,100 school districts in Texas, we are one of 89 in Texas to earn this distinction, placing us in the top 8% of all ISDs in Texas. Two thoughts from the NAM Foundation about this national award perfectly describe Conroe ISD. The Best Communities for Music Education designation is awarded to districts that demonstrate outstanding achievement in efforts to provide music access and music education to all students. And districts that have been recognized by the NAM Foundation are often held up as models for other educators looking to boost their own music education programs. 2022 marks the 9th year that CISD has been named a Best Community for Music Education. And to help us celebrate this time tonight, we've invited 11 teachers who represent all of our feeder systems and music educators from elementary, intermediate, junior high, and high school, band, orchestra, choir, and music to be with us tonight. And if I could, I'd like to ask them to stand, please, as they are here representing their colleagues.
Hey, Bob.
We appreciate so much the opportunity for this recognition. Our over 166 music teachers, pre-K through 12, serve over 45,000 students in our school district, and we are very proud of that. Thank you so much.
Teachers, if y'all would come forward, we'd love to have you up here as well. We'll take a group photo, and we appreciate you being here. I know Mr. Moore probably has some words that he'd like to share with you all up here at the front.
Just up here in the front.
Mr. Horton, how many total teachers in our music programs?
Over 166.
Can we have them do a selection for us?
Absolutely.
They want you up there too, though.
Can we get that in?
We have a framed version of what you see in larger print there for Dr. Horton's office, but this really goes to the 166 teachers that all of you represent. I get the good fortune, usually anytime there's music awards to be given as the resident musician on the board, I get to get up here. I'm a product of CISD music program. It was a CISD band director that gave me my first leadership opportunity. The first time I traveled internationally was because of a CISD music program. I look up here and I see some of you that have taught my own children. My youngest son is now performing at the collegiate level. I'm going to major in music and wants to be a professional musician. But the lives that you change and you touch every day, you know, even if they don't become music educators, if they don't become professional musicians, if they don't become music therapists, those lessons you teach them carry with them throughout their entire lives. Finding beauty in the midst of chaos, and Lord knows we need that in our world right now. The discipline to learn and hone their craft, as well as, I mean, we could spend hours talking about the academic benefits of music education and how it directly translates into classroom success. So to those of you standing up here, but really speaking to the 166 music educators in the district out there, we thank you for all that you do and how much you influence our students and the positive impact you make on our schools and our community. So thank you very much.
Bob has the cheat code. He can just stand in the back because he's so tall.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
I would come through. We would love to shake your hands. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
I appreciate all the work that you do.
We love our music.
Appreciate you. All you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
For everything you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Thank you very, very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you for all you do.
Oh, Collins, I'm a excellent mom.
Andy, congratulations. Thanks so much for all you do. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for helping all those kiddos.
Appreciate you.
I'm very jealous. I've always wanted to play. I don't always go. I appreciate it all. Congratulations. Maybe we'll do that. Congratulations. Thank you so much. For all you do.
Thank you so much. So glad you were here today.
Very happy for you all. Yeah. Thanks for all those hours of hard work. Thank you. Thank you so much for those late nights. Hard work. Thank you very much.
Nice job.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Oh, I love it.
Way back. Way back. All right. Nicely done. Thank you so much. Moving on to item C, special board recognition. Our 2021 AIC Constructor Certification Commission National Company Award of Excellence. I'm sure there's an acronym for that somewhere. Conroe ISD Planning and Construction Department.
You know, we like to make the titles as long as possible.
I know.
For you. I think it's part of the joy. Well, we do have a celebration here, and to make our introduction will be Mr. Chris McCord, our Assistant Superintendent of Operations.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. Tonight I'm here to present the Conroe ISD Planning and Construction Department team for a very special award. The American Institute of Constructors is a 50-plus year strong organization that works with multiple industries, including architecture, engineering, and construction, to promote professionalism and excellence. Through the AIC organization, Conroe ISD Planning and Construction was recently awarded the American Institute of Constructors Constructor Certification Commission National Company Award of Excellence for 2021. This recognition has historically gone only to private companies. We believe this is the first time in the 50-year history of the AIC that the recognition has been given to an owner and a public school owner to boot. As a further note, Mr. Foster is a national board member of the organization and was selected to serve as the national chairman of their ethics commission. In order to become certified, a candidate must hold a degree in construction science and pass 2 levels totaling 16 hours of test questions, or document extensive construction management expertise in an 8-hour examination. Mr. E.Z. Foster, Director of Planning and Construction, along with Mr. Danny Phillips, Assistant Director of Planning and Construction, are both certified professional constructors within the AIC organization. In addition, the remaining planning and construction staff are actively working their way through the necessary experience qualifiers to be able to take the AIC exams specific to their areas of expertise. President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll, I present to you this evening the Planning and Construction Department for your recognition, including Mr. Foster, Mr. Phillips, Mr. Ryan Atterbury, Ms. Tansy Foster, Mr. Lane Johnson, Ms. Courtney Rogers, and Mr. David Knapp. Thank you.
That maroon blazer he's got. Yeah.
Name for them, like, you know, how we have like the
Need
the wrecking crew or something.
construction bunch.
Construction. Bob the Builder.
I was just going to say that I grew up swinging a hammer, and I understand that's a whole lot more what you guys have done, so I really, really am impressed with that. I did some research on it real quickly, and I saw that it's a voluntary thing. They did this of their own free will. We didn't make them do it, as far as I understand. It has the highest standards of ethics and professionalism, and this really does, I think, show Conroe how our staff and members go to that highest level of professionalism, doing this willingly. You heard the 16-hour test. Most people don't sign up for examining me for 16 hours. So in all seriousness, I really congratulate you so much, and thank you so much for making Conroe ISD the fantastic school district that it is. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's get Mr. Inman in there. Mr. Inman, you want to join him for a picture?
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Come on through, y'all. Let's shake your hands. Thanks for all that you do.
Danny, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Nice job.
I am so impressed with you guys.
This is job.
Yeah, I am really impressed, man. Your stock went up way up to here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. What a achievement.
Appreciate everything you do.
What an achievement. Thank you so much. Super impressive. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Hubert, if I could just share one more thing, because this is the season of graduation, I just want to mention this. Miss Tansy Foster over there, her daughter is going to be the valedictorian at Caney Creek High School when we celebrate them in just a few days. So congratulations, Mom. Quite an honor.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Thanks for bringing that up. That's awesome. All right, moving on to item 3, citizen participation. Ms. Godfrey, do we have some people signed up? I believe we do. Very good. Please keep in mind that while this meeting is held in a public forum, the purpose of the meeting is for the Board of Trustees to conduct the business of the district in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, and Board Policy BED. If a patron during public comments addresses an issue that is on tonight's posted agenda, the board will defer its discussion of that issue until the item is reached on the agenda. For any issue that is not on the board's posted agenda, the board cannot and will not deliberate or make a decision relating to that issue. Speakers who have signed up to address the board during public comment must make all comments to the Board of Trustees and not to the audience. The board has specific policies under which the board considers complaints. If your purpose is to seek some type of remedy, the board cannot discuss or respond to your concern until you have met the requirements of the appropriate district policy. Accordingly, the board will not hear complaints or derogatory comments about individual students or staff during public comment. Information about how to file a complaint is located in the district's website. The board expects that everyone in attendance will conduct themselves respectfully, regardless of whether they agree or disagree with the speaker's message. Interrupting speakers or this meeting will not be tolerated. To ensure that the board can efficiently conduct the district's business, each of the speakers who have registered to address the board will be given 3 minutes to present their comments. Each speaker's time will be displayed on the screens around the room. When the countdown timer reaches 0, the next speaker will be called. So, Mrs. Godfrey, will you please call our first person?
Joshua Jaros.
We're in training right now. He wanted to come up and stand with me here. So Joshua Jaros, I've got 2 boys. One of them's here, the other one's in the back. But I want to just address a couple things here, and I'll be real brief. There were some books in the school that were definitely inappropriate. I think some other parents are going to testify on that. I was shocked to see some of the things. I don't know how they got in there, but I would really ask all of you to find a solution to this problem. These materials that we had in the class rooms, and that the teachers are giving some instructions saying that these were books that would be used for educational purposes. Let's get them out of our classrooms. We don't need it. Some of it was just absolute filth, just garbage. In fact, I asked to testify first because I think I wanted my kids to be out of this meeting before more of that was discussed. So that was one of the items I want to talk about. The second one, school homework. My oldest son especially struggles with math. And I will get notifications back through the automated process and says, you know, maybe he got a 70 or 80 or, God forbid, sometimes it's been lower than that. But the problem is I can't go through the homework with him at home because I don't have the test. A lot of it's being done electronically. So I think that's something that we need to look at as a school so that parents can get some of those tests back. I can look and see what my son is struggling with, and I can go over that with him at home. So that was another suggestion. And then the last thing was sometimes I don't always get notifications. And part of the reason that is, and you guys know that I work on this issue quite a bit, for parents that are separated or divorced, usually the non-custodial parent, and sometimes the staff has told me that the non-custodial parent cannot get any, they cannot be put on the email list. So if a notification is sent out where a student falls below a certain grade threshold, or there's some other notifications that a parent will get, it only goes to one parent. And I'm told, I've been told this several times by some of the staff members that the schools are unable to put a second parent on that email. I gotta think there's a way that we can do that so that parents could get that those particular notifications. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Misty Odenwiller.
I'll take Burke. Thanks.
I would think so. I don't know why they can't. It makes sense.
Good evening. My name is Misty Odenweller, and I'm a proud former educator, resident of CISD, and mom of grown children, and Mimi to 2 grandsons. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about something that is very concerning to me. There is no greater, stronger, sacred relationship than that between myself and God and myself and my children. The bond that is formed there between parent and child is from birth and nurtured to grow and strengthen. And in other cases, that happens the minute a child feels safe in the care of a loving person. CISD is undermining that bond in both counts. However, tonight I would like to address the bond that our school district, the place where we send 65% of our property taxes for salaries and training for the benefit of the children we also send to you, is being undermined. We have administration during in-services on campus instructing our teachers to lie and withhold information about children from their parents. In this particular case, when put into practice, it implies to the child that the school is a safer place than their parents or their homes. We have educators, especially in the high school classroom, laughing at parents and making fun of them, making derogatory comments and using the name Karen in demeaning and derogatory manners, telling them how dumb their parents are on a regular basis. I know this is happening for certain, at least in many occasions on Grand Oaks campus, and just last week in College Park. Statements and behaviors and actions that demean a parent make an impact on the mind of the student they are teaching. By doing this, it puts a wedge in between them and their parent. These actions are an assault on the parent and child relationship. Parents face many challenges that can cause divide and discord in raising their children. Fighting their school district and educational system to keep illegal material and content out of their children's hands shouldn't be one of them. I have given Dr. Knoll 7 official requests for reconsideration on books to be removed immediately. I'm not going to read that content out loud at this time. The support is there. There will be others that are doing it, and I'm glad you find that funny, because I don't. I don't find it funny at all. It's disgusting, it's sad, and it's an attack on the values of many residents in this district. And you need to remember that, along with every other single person on this board and in administration. We're done taking it. We're going to take a stand, and it starts tonight. And I do thank you for your service and for listening.
Thank you.
Haley King.
Hi, everyone. I rise tonight to speak to you as an Oak Ridge High School student. I rise to speak to the board not only in the dangers of interfering into curriculum policy, but to the parents and community members tonight that are concerned by the idea of books claiming with themes that they are against themes they claim to represent. The argument parents have the right to decide what material children are exposed to is 100% true, but differentiation between choice material and required material must be made. The widely circulated story that I'm sure we've all seen neglected to mention that the book in question of Oak Ridge High School was a part of choice reading. All readings are explicitly said and listed to involve parents, but what the story, assumably what brought a majority of you here, allows everyone to claim some form of pseudo-morality. Standing up here arguing to stand for some form of morality. Parents have every right to choose what their child can and cannot read, but no right to legislate what books are available to others. It is simply a claim to stand up here arguing for the material of books, but I would venture to guess a majority of you have read or have not read the book beyond a few lines. The claims that everyone is making about the choice novels without access to the full information and standing up here for this idea of morality that isn't even a part of the conversation. I've been a member of this high school. I have friends across the district. We're never forced to read anything. In fact, we've gotten slips sent home to everybody talking about the books that we're reading in class. It's always a choice. It's never this option that we're forced to read anything. And anyone who thinks that books can change the morals of a child has never tried to get, or has never been in English class trying to get everybody to read the book. Like, it's standing up here arguing for this faux morality, saying, we're gonna stand for this, when in reality, that's not what's going on here. What's going on here is we're talking about some cause that's riling everybody up, and that's not true. You have the option to not read it. And so arguing that the school is influencing everybody, it's forcing everybody to be a part of this material, has clearly never talked to their high school English teacher. What we're asking is just for the educators to be allowed to make educator decisions. Educators should be allowed to be a part of this decision. And so, acting like parents should not have to, are not involved is just simply not the case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Courtney Weaver.
Good evening, Dr. Knoll and members of the school board. I really appreciate the opportunity that you give us to talk about our concerns. My family moved to this area and specifically bought our property to be in Conroe ISD. It came down between two and off the same road. One was in Magnolia ISD, one was in Conroe ISD. And while I still regret the house decision, I do not regret the district decision. I am a parent of a current senior at the Woodlands High School. I have an older child who is a graduate of the Woodlands High School, and we hosted a foreign exchange student who also went to the Woodlands High School for a year. My personal children started in the elementary program, and I am so proud of the education that they received, and I have often bragged on the district about what a good job it does educating the children and providing a variety of options to meet every interest and every need. I think we do a really good job of doing that. I am fortunate to be a Conroe ISD employee. I am extremely fortunate to work in my neighborhood school. I am a proud Mitchell Mustang teacher at Mitchell Intermediate, and I teach science. So I have a lot of pride for our district, and it was with great pride that I looked forward to the orchestra concerts that are being held this Saturday, May 14th. It was the final orchestra concert for Mitchell Intermediate, Colson Tuff, the brand new mariachi band who's had such great success at the Woodlands High School, and it was the final concert and senior tribute send-off concert for my daughter and the rest of the seniors for that. It was with great disappointment that it got moved to the cafeteria. Last minute, the directors were informed Friday morning. And what makes the cafeteria great for serving food and cleaning and disinfecting make it horrible for a music venue. So it was, this decision was made because someone rents the auditorium, and they had requested to be able to set up Saturday night, and so 3 schools worth of children were moved. This was an insult to the students and the teachers in the fine arts program. There was an apology made, and as an adult, I think I handled that better than the orchestra students who it rings hollow to. Going forward, I would just like to make sure that our facilities are always granted to the students and student organizations first, and if there is a conflict, that it goes in favor of the students. I think our schools, while we need to offer them to the community, first and foremost, should be for the students. Thank you so much for your time.
Melissa Dungan.
Good evening. So the last several decades, we've been dealt a new class of leadership in public education, a group unlike people that were in that group before. Seems that they lack conviction. Some seem to lack decisiveness and even the wherewithal to make decisions that are needed to be made so that the materials that are in question, that we are discussing tonight, don't end up in the hands of our children. I come here tonight not to thank or to congratulate you, but to challenge you to take immediate action. By now, you should all be aware that a number of books currently residing on shelves in many Conroe ISD high schools, middle schools, and even elementary schools include language, graphics, description that would make any adult cringe and offend the masses, honestly. If spoken aloud in class, some of the terms that are in these books would violate policies that would result in punishment or action by the administration, or they should. That said, while we look forward to hearing about potential policy revisions regarding library materials as slated for later on in tonight's meeting, we more highly anticipate the board's vote to immediately remove all currently contested inappropriate material from school library shelves and subsequently from classroom assignments. We hear a lot of talk about hearts and whose heart is where. We don't need more hearts. We need action. We need good judgment. We need more decisiveness moving forward, especially when it comes to protecting our children. Our children are counting on us. We're the adults. We need to protect them, not overwhelm them with decisions about what gender they wish to be or how kind and accepting they should be of others. Those discussions and decisions should and do happen in the home. It will take some time to redirect from the dark path we're spinning down, but like so many, I am confident that through proactive debate, thoughtful discussion, and with God's help, we can right all that's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carolyn Nini.
Also, there's some seating up here if anybody wants to, just pointing it out, if anybody wants to sit down, there's seating up here as well.
That's what I heard. Good evening. It's time we have a serious conversation about what is happening in our schools across the nation, including Conroe ISD. No longer are our children receiving quality education, but rather they are being exposed to a new type of curriculum. That curriculum being social-emotional learning, critical race theory, and comprehensive sexual education. This indoctrination starts with kindergarten and continues through the 12th grade. Our children are being exposed to hazardous sexual behaviors and gender confusion. There are sexually explicit books in our school libraries that are so disgusting that they are equal to pornographic material. Children are being groomed to become gender-neutral, transgenders, pedophiles, and LGBTQ. They are encouraged to transition to their preferred sexual identity with the assistance of hormone-altering drugs and eventually sex change surgery. The schools will deny they are teaching this perverse woke ideology, but we will not be fooled. This is child abuse at the highest level, and we are seeing an uptick in suicides. Regarding CRT, our children are being punished or promoted based upon the color of their skin. White children are wicked, and black and brown children are the victims. I thought racism was supposed to be bad, but we're teaching this in our own schools. Our schools are focused on this nonsense over academic standards, and our academic standards are falling off the cliff. There have been reports from colleges are having to lower their standards for their entrance exams, which does not speak well of the school system in our nation. I would like to invite each one of you to attend Mind Polluters documentary at Grace Woodlands Church on May 26th at 6:30. It covers in depth the concerns that we are all sharing here tonight. Thank you.
Kelly Cox.
Hello, my name is Kelly Cox, and I'm here to voice my disapproval about the inappropriate reading material that the 10th grade English department at Oak Ridge High has assigned, specifically a book titled Perks of Being a Wallflower. This issue is related to agenda item 12D, although I don't think that agenda item goes far enough. Revisions also need to be made to what is allowed in the classrooms. I hear that there's a stack of these in the classrooms, not only the libraries. Your code of conduct states that a student shall not engage in vulgar language, use profanity, or make obscene gestures. They shall not engage in inappropriate verbal or sexual conduct toward another person. That's good. Your code of conduct for employees states employees shall maintain professional and prudent standards and shall refrain from inappropriate or sexually explicit communications. That's good too. I applaud you for those. Forgive me for what I am about to read to you. And this is from this book that is piled up in the classrooms. And the boy kept working up the girl's shirt, and as much as she said no, he kept working it. Pretty soon he took off her bra and started to kiss her bleep. And then they were both very drunk. He reached to take off her pants, but she started crying really hard. So he reached for his own. He pulled his pants and underwear down to his knees. Please, Dave, no. But the boy just talked soft to her about how she looked good and things like that. And she grabbed his bleep with her hands and started moving it. I wish I could describe this a little more nicely without using the words like bleep, but that's the way it is. After minutes, the boy pushed the girl's head down and she started to kiss his bleep. She was still crying. Finally, she stopped crying because he put his bleep in her mouth. And I don't think you can cry in that position. I had to stop watching at this point because I started to feel sick, kind of like I am feeling right now. But it kept going on, and they kept doing other things, and she kept saying no. This book is full of this lovely stuff. And I quote, "Dear friend, do you know what blank is?" I think you probably do because you're older than me, but just in case, I will tell you, blank is when you rub your blank until you have a blank. Wow. We're brother and sister, Patrick said, still laughing. But you don't look alike, I said, but that's when Sam explained that they were actually stepsister and stepbrother, since Patrick's dad married Sam's mom. I was very happy to know that because I would really like to ask Sam on a date someday. I really would. I feel ashamed, though, because that night I had a weird dream. I was Sam, and we were both naked, and her legs were spread over the sides of the couch. Now, if you guys don't find this vulgar, I think there's something wrong with you. Patrick kept a secret as to why Brad came into the party. When most people left, Brad and Patrick went into his room. This is a gay sex scene, talking about where something gets poked in something and bleepity bleep bleep bleep. This is full of bleeps. It needs to be removed immediately.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Cook.
Kristen Johnson.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Knoll. My name is Kristen Johnson, and I am a candidate for the Texas House of Representatives for District 15. However, tonight I am here as a parent. My 3 children have either attended or are currently attending CISD schools. I understand that there is a discussion being had tonight about the scrutinization process about admitting literature and limiting access or censoring books and curriculum in the libraries. I wanted to voice my support for maintaining the current system rather than adopting a new, more restrictive one. This is because I understand that literature helps us identify parts of ourselves and others around us. Literature is important for representation. Books in libraries should not be limited to what's culturally relevant for a specific population, but rather what is culturally relevant for the whole world. The library should be the most diverse room in a school, containing ideas from past civilizations, beliefs of others around the world, as well as around the block. Reading content and ideas that we object to help us understand and start conversations that might otherwise be impossible. We do not have to agree with what we read, but it is important that we know what is being told or propagated on the other side of any issue. We need to learn about other perspectives, ideas, and faiths, if not only because we live in a global world, but also because we coexist in a vastly diverse community. Those differences are not going to go away, and our community will only continue to grow more and more diverse as we move into the future. Failing to discuss hard truths or difficult facts does not make those truths any less true or those facts less available. This is why we cannot go around banning books and erasing the ugly parts of history that we don't like. We need access to these books to better understand one another. And even more importantly, our children need access to these books if we have any hope for them to improve their futures. I continue to trust the professionals in CISD. I trust the teachers, librarians, and administrators who have gone through countless hours of education, praxis tests, and licensures to know what is appropriate for our students. And I also trust the CISD board to do what is best and act in the best interest of our children and not rise and fall with the tide of the political climate. Ladies and gentlemen on the board, I wish to leave you with an encouraging quote from Kylene Beers. I wish you all the bravery, stamina, and the knowledge that your work is hard work, but it is the good work, the best work, the needed work. We need you.
Thank you.
Linda Evans.
Hold on, just 1 second.
Oh.
Listen, I'm asking everybody just to be respectful of one another. You don't have to agree or disagree, but I just ask you to be respectful. That's it. Just be respectful, allow the people to speak, and let them get their point across. We're allowing others. This is a diverse group of people tonight, and I appreciate the courage that each one of you have to show up and give your opinion. It's not easy to stand in front of this mic and talk to us. It's even worse when you have people booing you and shouting you down. So I just ask that you be respectful to the person speaking. Thank you.
Excuse me, did you say Linda Evans, yes, thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Greetings, President Hubert, board members, Dr. Null, and the staff. Thank you for all the hard work you do for CISD. It's a hard job, and you do it well. My name is Linda Evans. My family moved to the Woodlands way back in 1981, and we became a part of the CISD family at that point. Both of our children graduated from the old McCullough High School, went on to great careers in college, and have had a lot of success in their adult lives. We think it's all due to a good part of what you did with this good education in this district. In my first career, I was a teacher. I taught for 20 years, 4 different states, 6 different school districts encompassing all kinds of students, and school districts, and school boards. I saw a lot. But the last 10 years, I had the privilege of teaching at a brand new school. It was Sally K. Ride Elementary, and I have to tell you, it was a wonderful place to teach. But I've noticed a very disturbing trend these last few years. Political parties are trying to insert themselves into non-political things, such as school board policies and school board positions. Party politics, I don't care if it's Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, doesn't matter. They have no place in the non-partisan business of schools and school board positions. Our children in this 21st century are going to have to compete with students from around the world. Many of them will be coming from very good, exceptional educational systems. We want our children's education in CISD to be deep and wide and cutting edge, and expansive. We want superb critical thinking skills so they can handle whatever comes their way once they leave high school. School board candidates who align with any political party become beholden to those parties, those policies, that party's platform. And frankly, it becomes a more narrow education, more shallow, more 19th century, not 21st century. The job and responsibility of a board member is to advocate for all the students in this district, and making hard choices should be not based on any party's agenda, but on solid, well-researched facts and evidence. And such decisions are not always popular. They're not easy, and I don't have to tell you, they're not always cheap either. Yet it is what good school board members are elected to do, and that's what all of you have been doing. Stay out of the highly partisan world of politics and concentrate on your higher calling, the children of CISD. And again, thank you so much for your hard work for our district.
Jessica Brasington.
Hi, President Hubert, Dr. Knoll, and all the board members. I want to follow up on a conversation that I had with Dr. Knoll last week, and I want to first thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns. And this is regarding critical race theory. So you stated that the tenets of critical race theory are not an ISD. With all due respect, the tenets may not be specifically encompassed in the curriculum, but it is not a true statement to say that regarding all materials outside of the curriculum. We have been told in good faith that in fact there are tenets of CRT being taught to students in an elementary school. Teachers have seen a significant change in behavior towards them by these students once they're exposed to that. One teacher was told by a student that she was racist, but it was not her fault because it was the color of her skin. I am a little pale right now until I get to the beach in Florida next week, but according to critical race theory, I qualify as being oppressed based on my brown skin color. This, by the very definition, is racism, which we have worked so hard to overcome so that we can be judged by the content of our character and not by the color of our skin. The other concern I have regarding our discussion last week is regarding SEL, or social emotional learning. You stated that according to CISD's definition, SEL includes patriotism, goal setting, inclusion, respect, and not hitting others. Again, with all due respect, Dr. Knoll, the dangerous thing about social emotional learning is the fact that it is defined by the person who is giving that instruction, and it is left up to that person's personal values and how they deem that appropriate. What one person sees as moral and virtuous, as you've seen already here tonight, differs from the next. Bottom line, it is not the school's responsibility to teach virtue and morality. That is the job of the parent. In fact, teachers have expressed to us that they feel ill-equipped to be teaching this through SEL, and they are uncomfortable as well. Let's protect our teachers and the students. Let teachers teach, and let parents parent their children. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cassandra Crowe.
Cassandra?
Cassandra Crowe.
Hi, thank you so much. So I've made a 75-page document for you guys to have so that you can reference what I'm talking about. President Hubert, Dr. Knoll, and trustees, thank you so much for having me this evening. I want to follow up. There was a lady that spoke earlier saying that we couldn't choose books based on cultural issues. And so what I want to start today is by saying that my argument for immediate removal of some books is not based at all on cultural issues or my own values or religious beliefs or anything like that. It's simply based on law. So these are not subjective, they're absolutely black and white. So in light of the agenda item regarding the policy on library materials, I strongly express that pervasively vulgar, sexually explicit, and other educationally unsuitable books have no place in public schools. Per the TEA suggested new local school board policy, library books containing harmful material labeled under Texas Penal Code 43.24 do not belong in Texas school libraries. Currently in circulation at Conroe ISD are 35 books that are included in your packet that are considered to be obscene. Furthermore, the display or distribution of these obscene materials are a violation of sections 43.22, 43.23, 43.24, which you can review on pages 3 to 5 in your packet. Consider this, in a public setting, the display or distribution of these books would be an offense ranging from Class C misdemeanor to state jail felony. Retribution for this violation could result in citations, fine, probation, jail, and or sex offender registry. So consider this, if any of you gentlemen were to read this book in a public park out loud where kids could hear you, you would be criminally liable for that offense. I think we can all agree that the standards for safety and protection should be higher in our public school classrooms than they are at the Valero on the corner. Taking this into account and assuming that all stakeholders can agree that we have higher standards for safety and protection of our kids inside our schools than outside, I want you to please see pages 6 through 77 of your packet. I have included 35 books that we have determined are obscene according to Texas law, not my opinion. And we respectfully request that the following 35 books be removed from CISD circulation in libraries as well as classrooms, effective immediately. And this list is not exhaustive. While these books are under a formal review. We're just asking that they go on administrative leave, like what you would do if an employee was accused of a sexual assault. You would put them on administrative leave while you did an investigation. We're asking that you do the same for the books. These 35 books all contain graphic details of sexual acts. They're pervasively vulgar, obscene, not appropriate, violate Texas Penal Code, and can and should be removed from all CISD libraries effective immediately while under review. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Carl White.
President Hubert, board members, Dr. Luss, how y'all doing? It's important that we educate students because we all played a role in building the United States. Black folks, white folks, all died fighting for the rights of others. Students need to know that without Eldridge Cleaver, Stokely Carmichael, Huey Newton, H. Ralph Brown, who delivered meals to families in the 70s, started Meals on Wheels as we know it today. These were highly educated brothers, were members of the Panthers. There could be no discrimination on books that are banned. If students can't learn about the valuable contribution Martin Luther King made to this country, they cannot learn about Abe Lincoln, George Washington, Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, because these gentlemen owned slaves. Current history, 10 innocent black people in Buffalo, New York was killed by an 18-year-old white man who believed hateful white supremacist speech and drove hours to systematically kill black folks because of hateful speech. And I've heard that kind of speech in the atmosphere here within these chambers. He was broadcasting a new form of lynching, just going around putting a camera and kill black folks. That's what you call hate. And that's what we do not need in these CISD. Maybe the school board needs to close all the school libraries and create a culture of students ignorant to the past and current history. Thank you.
Misha Weaver.
Good evening, board. If you take 5 minutes out of your day to speak to the students, I can guarantee you they are not worried about books in the library. Half of them don't even go to the library. And if we're being honest, they can download whatever they want via their cell phones. I know because I've spoken to several hundred of them and read several senior essays. They will tell you how easy it is for them to get drugs while on campus, how they can vape freely in the bathrooms until they pass out. They can tell you they can't even walk down the hallway. I'm sorry, because I just had an incident with my girls, with bullies. You can't even walk down the hallway to get to class without being jumped by troublemakers. They will tell you their mental health is troubled and they feel like administrators and board trustees do not care. CISD is out of touch. It has become so focused on being politically correct that it's morally wrong. We have teachers who have to referee hall fights. We have staff members, actual staff members, spreading rumors about children. We have administrators that only care about their titles and positions. And we have overworked and underpaid staff. I witnessed 2 fights this school year at a junior high game. The school cop was MIA, and they canceled the game. The parents were not reprimanded, nor their children. They should have been escorted off the premises and banned from all activities. But nothing was done because everyone is scared to address these issues and hold people accountable. The only book any of us really need to be concerned with is the Bible. Satan is roaming freely in our hallways, causing division, spreading hatred and disorder. It's time for parents to be parents. Hold our kids accountable. Teach them to treat others the way they want to be treated and say no to drugs. It's time for our leadership to step up and take swift action to ensure our school is a safe place for all students. Is the DARE program still not around? What happened to student mediation? I was a part of this program when Hauser was an intermediate. It was a great program. It taught us how to address issues as young adults that didn't result in fighting. We were able to handle things on our own. It was an excellent program that I wish was still around. What happened to zero tolerance policies for disrespectful and disorderly students? What happened to the administrators who sincerely cared about all students and wasn't afraid to stand up for what's right? It's time for change. I'd love to see a student board of trustees like surrounding school districts to represent their views and work alongside you all, because at the end of the day, we represent them. And to be honest, if we all picked up our kids' phones and went through their messages and DMs, it would be far worse than what's in some of these books. Again, let's get back to being parents and administrators being administrators.
Jordan Whitcop.
My mother would kill me if I talked to you with gum in my mouth. Thank you for the time today. I really wish I were here to talk about a book, but I'm not. On the morning of May 5th, high school senior Grant Blodgett and his girlfriend were found dead from fentanyl poisoning, and my world fell apart. He is my son. He was full of promise and hope for the future. And in an instant, what should have been a stupid teenager mistake took him from us forever. I think it's easy for us to watch the news, admit that there's fentanyl out there, and think, well, but it's not here. It is. I'm here to tell you that it is. I learned a new term this week called mass overdose. That's when 3 or more people overdose in a narrow time frame in a narrow geography, and that's what happened last week. 70% of overdoses, we'll talk about that in a second, are from fentanyl now. So countrywide, there were about 107 in 2021, 71,000 were fentanyl. In Texas, there were 3,000 overdoses, 1,700 were fentanyl. 588 pounds of fentanyl were seized at the border in 2021 of only our state. That still leaves Arizona, California, and things get into Florida weird ways too. 2 milligrams is a lethal dose. So that's 134 million lethal doses. That's just what we recovered, right? There's already enough fentanyl here now to kill all of us. So you mentioned DARE. DARE don't work, okay? It has never worked for a teenager to stand there and get told by a cop, don't do drugs, okay? But it used to be that you lived through it, right? You lived another day. We have to do something different here. One of the benefits of being on my side of this is that a lot of people do share information with you. The horrible stories, I haven't met one person that doesn't have at least one story, and I didn't know any of them before. One kid at Grant's funeral said that Grant was his third friend who's died this way. Third friend. How are these kids going to make it? Just even if that kid doesn't die himself from this, he is overwhelmed by the grief and the worry and the concern over this. So I was taught not to come and complain to anybody without a proposed solution to the problem. One of the pieces of information that was shared with me included a short 6-minute video to be used with children, and all the moms were circulating this around. But even bigger than that, there is a program that's been around for about 25 years that is more evidence-based, more science-based than DARE ever was. And I really want to urge you to consider implementing this particular program in CISD. It also has a fentanyl module on top of everything else. Now, I will warn you, it says that this must be implemented at the very latest 6th grade. And let me tell you why. If you'll bear with me, I know my time's about up, but the reason why is 13 years of age is the average first-time drug and alcohol use. First time. 9 out of 10 addictions start in their teens. There's no national programming in schools to teach youth about drug and alcohol abuse. None. We've got to do better. We have failed my son. But I can't stand here and fail all of their kids. Thank you.
Greg Blodgett.
Well, I'm Grant's dad. I got this. Okay. So I know some of you guys, you know me, and some of you knew Grant. So I have a couple points, just things that I've picked up over the years raising this kid here in CISD. You know, with when it came to COVID, the reaction was we closed schools, enacted mask mandates, physical distancing, online schooling. We lost 0 children, 0 to 17. Fentanyl overdose deaths have increased 271%. 20% of deaths in Montgomery County are teenagers. As of May 10th, Montgomery County is moving forward on a fentanyl task force. I think our schools need to be heavily involved and a major focus with real changes and major actions on par with how we approach COVID. This is an epidemic. I have 3 points. The first was seems a simple one. One of the things we noticed that maybe should have been brought to our attention earlier was he was skipping school. He only had a half day, and this past semester he would skip his 3rd period, and we didn't get any notifications, none. Not until his English teacher reached out and was, hey, what's going on with Grant? Or until we actually got the form that says, hey, he's hitting a percentage He's got to make sure he hits this many hours. You know, that's when we found out. We get notifications on absences, we get notifications on tardies and everything, but I don't get those phone calls and emails and all when they skip one class. To me, that seems like a system thing that could easily be fixed. So, anyway, we should automatically receive notifications for every period missed. Systems can be automated around such things. Teachers, counselors, and APs should be more in tune on seeing these patterns and acting upon them, and letting the parents know. I'll jump to the third one and go back. The teachers should be educated on drug usage signs. You know, they see these kids more than us in some cases. You know, my child did half day and then went to work. You know, he hung out with his friends, and then he'd go and work, and so the parents and the educators are the ones that see them more in the day a lot of times than we do. So, I mean, that kid sleeping in your class, you know, try to wake them. You know, notice their inability to wake up and their pinhole pupils. Sorry. Notice patterns around downgrades in work. Notice them skipping your class. Notice the withdrawal. Say something. There should be easy algorithms around grade slippage and class attendance that everyone should know. There should also be human algorithms and regular communication between teachers, counselors, and parents when you start to see someone obviously hurting. Last year, we had a feeling Grant was skipping some classes, you know, based on, I mean, because this isn't something that we just, you know, like we didn't pay attention or something. He always told me that I texted him like an ex-girlfriend. And, you know, when we watch his location, you pay attention to this, you watch all their friends. But when we called the school to ask if Grant was in class or on campus, we were told there is no way they could know for certain. That there are too many kids coming and going and too many entrances and exits to cover. Entrances and exits should be monitored out of the parking lot and out of the school. The parking lot should be monitored more closely because the kids go and hang out in their cars. Mine was sleeping in his car. When I talked to one of our neighbors that knew the other child involved, they said that oh yeah, she's in my math class, and she sleeps every day in there. You know, why does the school have to be so big? You know, we have 4,500 kids. It's the size of a college campus. I mean, it's where we went to school. You know, our kids are treated as though they can handle this. And we're somehow, like we wear it as a badge of honor with this large size. But at what cost? You know, graduating 1,200. How do you form relationships? How do you keep up with each child's growth? And noticing these things, like skipping classes, apathy towards school and activities, sleeping, tired of hearing senioritis is real. I went to school in Atlanta. I graduated with 200. Everybody knew everybody. Teachers knew every kid. Patterns were recognized and acted upon. So I would suggest build another school or split this school up. Like we don't need to be this large. It's not helping anybody. So that's all.
Jordan and Greg, we're truly sorry for your loss. I'd like to take a 5-10 minute break, please. start without you. All right. Very good. Okay, moving on, time is 7:29. Moving on to item 4, our consent agenda. I haven't heard from anybody to pull anything out.
Move approval of consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
A motion, a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor shall by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign. Very good. If it's okay, I would like to move up item 9, which is our human resources, if that's okay.
11.
With our team. All right, very good. We've got a couple of items on here that are exciting. So Dr. Knoll, we'd like to call on 11A.
Yes, sir.
Main principal of Conroe High School, 9th grade campus.
Yes, as you'll recall, we just last month moved Buddy Bush, our principal from Conroe 9, to be our new principal at Grand Oaks High School, and that's left an opening here for Conroe 9. And as we know, Conroe 9 is a very important building in the district. You know, they're expecting almost 1,500 freshmen next year, bringing 2 junior highs together and preparing students to move on to Conroe High School. So it's a very important job, and we need somebody there that understands the students and understands the expectations of Conroe High. And so we, through the interview process, were able to identify Mr. Kevin Meyer as the right person. And this is an interesting bit of shuffling between staff, because Mr. Meyer actually was just recently hired to go be an associate principal at Grand Oaks. So he left Conroe High and went to Grand Oaks, and now because of the new principal at Grand Oaks, we're pulling back to Conroe. So, and I know that it's the committee was very impressed, and Dr. Smith has given her full endorsement of this hire as well, because she worked with Mr. Meyer when he was an assistant principal on the Conroe High School main campus. So I'd like to recommend Kevin Meyer be the next principal of Conroe 9. All right.
I move we approve as presented.
Have a motion?
Second.
All right, very good. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Congratulations.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll, thank you for this amazing opportunity. It is humbling to be given any opportunity to lead within this amazing district. For me, it is even more humbling to be given the opportunity to lead part of the flagship of our district. Conroe High School and its community are wonderful places full of truly great people. There are a few people in here tonight that I would like to thank for their investment in me and my growth as a leader. Dr. Tamika Taylor, Mr. Jeff Fuller, Dr. Edith Upshaw, Mr. Greg Colshin, Mr. Chris McCord. Whether you knew it or not, you all made an impact on me, whether it was through a phone call or an in-person meeting, just taking time to have conversations with me. I appreciate you all. Dr. Povich, thank you for the opportunity, however brief, to be at Grand Oaks with you, principal.
From both of them.
I think Dr. Smith may say she's winning now. Also to Dr. Smith, who is the reason I'm in this district. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to join Conroe ISD 2 years ago. Thank you for the chances you gave me to grow and your amazing example of leadership. I also have some family here that I'd like to recognize, because they've always been a great support system for me in everything I've done. I have my mother-in-law and father-in-law, Bobby and Charlie McGuire. I have my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and my little niece, Christy, Peter, and little Emery. I have my Aunt Shannon and my Aunt Stacy. And then I have my loving wife, Katie, and my girls, Kinley and Colby. Katie, Kinley, and Colby, thank you for being so loving and supportive. Every day you make me strive to be better, and I love you more than you will ever know. I look forward to working with Dr. Smith and the Conroe High School 9th grade campus to continue to support our kids on their path to greatness. To the incoming 9th graders, I cannot wait to meet you and see all of the amazing things you will do. To the staff of the 9th grade campus, I cannot wait to get to know each of you. I look forward to working alongside all of you and seeing all Tigers achieve. Sick 'em Tigers.
Congratulations, I thought that got you gold there, yeah.
That's right.
right, he's already got the colors right.
Hey, put that orange and blue tie away. Yeah.
Congratulations.
You got rid of the blue and orange.
Yeah, real quick.
His
Indeed.
family's already sporting, so.
Good job, wife. They did this. Got them four things up
I love
there.
it. I love it.
Look like this. Hey.
All right, congratulations. Dr. Knoll, I'd like to move on to item B, named principal of Oak Ridge High School.
Yes, sir. Once again, we have the vacancy at Oak Ridge High School as Dr. Leckie has moved over to our virtual academy, and we, Oak Ridge High School is a very special campus. There's a lot of pride at Oak Ridge High School, and we really wanted somebody that had a sense of passion that matches the passion that the community has for the school. And so we wanted someone that was invested in that community, invested in the school, and we have that with Mr. Sean Allman. Mr. Allman has served on that campus for many years as an associate principal, and then has recently served as the principal of the 9th grade campus, so he's familiar with the students, and he's been there, familiar with the community. Mr. Allman is known as a man of just having a steady calm. I will say this, even when he was a basketball coach back in the day, he was still pretty calm, even then. And that carries forward as just his class and character is something that the committee really spoke highly of as I visited with them. And so I would like to recommend Mr. Sean Allman be our next principal of Oak Ridge High.
Okay.
So move.
We have a motion. We have
Second.
a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. Congratulations.
President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll, thank you for this opportunity. I'm excited, humbled, and honored to be named the principal at Oak Ridge High School. Tonight, I'd like to introduce my family that's here tonight. Start off with my wife of 29 years, Jamie. My son is not here tonight. He said he was going to be watching. He is serving. He's a first lieutenant in the Army and is currently stationed in Hawaii and doing well over there. My oldest daughter, Allie, is an Oak Ridge grad, and her husband, Patrick, are here tonight, and they're also both teachers at Alvin ISD. I have a daughter that was also another Oak Ridge grad who's currently attending Lone Star. And then my youngest daughter is currently a junior at Oak Ridge High School, Albany, and she has not voted for me yet, so still wait, the verdict's out on that one.
She didn't boo, so that was good. I was worried about that. Yeah.
I didn't sign up
All
for
she's been
that.
talking about, we want chocolate chip cookies every day at lunch. That's what she's talking about. But I'd like to thank the staff at the Oak Ridge 9th campus for their support and encouragement this past year. They're dedicated professionals who care about each other and truly have a heart for students as they set the foundation to successful high school career for our students. I also feel fortunate that I'll still be a part of their family moving forward. To the War Eagle Nation, I look forward to leading and working with you as we continue to equip, develop, and grow our students into strong leaders who will make a positive impact on our community, state, and nation in the future. I want you to know that the staff and students at Oak Ridge, as Dr. Knoll said, are truly special. And I can't wait in this upcoming year to share the stories with you of the great things that are going to happen at Oak Ridge. Thank you again for this opportunity, and be on the lookout for the War Eagles soaring to new heights in the future. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Our principals have a strong tie game. Oh, you know that. They got the same color. Yeah, they're good.
Okay, all right.
Should we give him a moment, Dr. Knoll? Should we give him a moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you all are welcome to stay, but if you'd like to go and celebrate, this would be your opportunity to go do that. So thank you all.
We gotta drive back to Alvin. They got a wedding.
Yeah, plenty to do.
Exciting.
Yeah.
All right, while they're shuffling out, we will move on to item 5, which is administration. Receive presentation of submitted names for new Conroe ISD campus and facilities. Ms. Blakelock.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. I'm excited to be with you tonight to share some name submissions with you. And before I go through them, we'll have a detailed list posted on the website tomorrow because we'll kind of go through things fairly quickly tonight. The print is small. So if you'll recall, I was here last month and you initiated the naming process. We collected submissions from April 20th through May 13th. We received 371 total submissions, and here I am tonight to share those with you. And then I'll be back again in June to help with, present things to you for your discussion. So first off, we have Flex 22 in the Grand Oaks feeder. This is slated to open in August of 2023. It's located on Lexington Boulevard, and at this time is projected to serve grades K through 4. We received 141 total submissions. I did say the font was small, which is why we're going to post it online. But as you can imagine, we received many duplicate submissions, and so that was whittled down to this list.
And we will provide you all with the comprehensive list.
Yes. So I'll give you just a moment to do a quick scan. And then we also received for Flex 23, which is the Caney Creek and Conroe Elementary, that will be opening in August of 2024 in the area of 1488 Airport Road. We also received quite a few submissions. We received 172 total. Again, the font is small because we had a lot of wonderful submissions. You will notice that some of the submissions are similar from campus to campus, but there are some unique submissions based on the geographic or feeder area. And then last, but certainly not least, we collected names for you for miscellaneous district facilities. We have several facilities that aren't named after someone, and then we also have the new maintenance facility being constructed. So we wanted to give you some options or some names for consideration should you so choose. So we received 58 total names, and the suggestions by the submitters were left under the names if that facility didn't already have a name attached to it. Okay. So as you'll recall, in Board Policy CW Local, it outlines the naming process. It's pretty open for these facilities, and I look forward to seeing you again in June. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blakelock. All right, moving on to item 6A, receive capital improvements update. Is that Mr. Foster? The newly recognized,
Yes.
Mr. Foster?
Award-winning.
Award-winning
As it were.
with his maroon blazer.
Just remember, there's only one set of double doors. I'll need to be able to get out.
I think that's Merlot.
So, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Null, it's my pleasure to bring forward for you an update on our capital improvements underway throughout the district. We'll start with our safety and security program for 2022. This is just a representation of where we are currently working. So the project is moving along very well. I mean, it is on schedule. We're scheduled to be working on these campuses through the end of this calendar year. I report that currently, as the students leave for their summer breaks, we're beginning the process of walking through the next installment of campuses, which we'll bring forward for your approval in the first part of next year for the 2023 installment. It is a district-wide effort, and we're working through it. It is lots of things above the ceiling that you can't see. So it's cameras, it's access controls, and things of that nature on the secure vestibules. I mean, the 2022 project is on schedule, and we're scheduled, like I said, to wrap it up by the end of the calendar year. Moving on to our campus renovations project for 2022, where one of the major scopes of work is at Gladys Elementary. So we are updating the air conditioning system at Gladys Elementary. So since our approval a couple months ago, we've been procuring equipment. I'm happy to say we have all the equipment either in transit or in hand for the above ceiling work. I mean, so we will be able to get the systems above ceiling changed out over the summer and get it back in service by the time the students return for their summer break. So that project is looking to be on schedule just like we had anticipated. Now to Creighton Elementary, that overhaul of that campus is, we've been awaiting the summer break so that we can break through the walls and extend and expand the kitchen and serving lines for that building. And just like at Gladys, we have the equipment that's either in transit on its way currently or it's in hand so that as soon as the summer break happens, we're going to be able to finish that work and we'll wrap up that whole project by the time the students return from the summer break
in August. Now, our new Moorhead Junior High School, which is scheduled to open in August of 2023. So the next big milestone for the building is drying in the main portion of the building. You can see that most of the walls, exterior walls are up now. They're working on the waterproofing, and this masonry expands around the academic portions of the building. The things to note in the picture are the athletic field development. So you've got the track and the practice fields and the new tennis courts you can see under construction in the lower part of the dirt area. So that project is on schedule and is scheduled to open in August of 23. At Conroe High School, this is our major overhaul of the Conroe High School campus, which actually realigns how the buildings operate and how they're done. It is currently on schedule as well. We'll be on that campus through the calendar year 2025. On the right-hand side, you'll see the new CTE venue, which is wrapping around the existing band hall. That project is moving along well. If you drove by it recently, you'll see the exterior walls going up, masonry, sheathing, things of that nature that make that a building. So it is moving along very nicely. In the upper center of that program is the new locker room spaces, the new gym spaces. That steel is being erected currently. They're working on the second floor decks for the two-story portions of that section. It is moving along nicely. And on the left side is the athletic fields for that new campus. You can even see the remnants or the beginnings of a new set of parking spaces, which will help the parking situation, as you can see, is full on that campus currently. The athletic fields are going to be used when football season starts, when the students return from the summer break. So we're happy to report that portion of the project is turning over on time, as well as the whole project is scheduled to finish in the calendar year 2025. At Gordon Reed Elementary, which is over on the west side of the district, you can see from this picture, it looks like it's nearly finished because it is nearly finished. We're going to wrap it up this month, take possession of it as a district next month, so you'll get one more update certifying we are done with the building and taking over our portions of it. But the building is colorful and finished on the inside. They're working through the details, cleaning up. So overall, it is finishing nicely on schedule. As we had planned, and we'll take over, and it'll be open for students in August when they come back from their summer break. At Oak Ridge High School, this is the overhaul of the main campus as well as our South County CTE program. You can see the new admin, which would be the new front door of the campus, taking place in the kind of the lower right center of the picture. That project is moving along nicely. In the middle, you'll see the crane that's sticking up over the building. That's helping erect and complete the central plant, which is the heart and soul of the new overhauled mechanical systems for that building, as well as the dirt between them, which is essentially the footprint for the new CTE wing is beginning to start there as the underground utilities are beginning underway this summer as we move on to foundations and bring the steel vertical on that project. We're looking forward very much to get that one underway. It is currently on schedule. We'll be on that campus through the end of the summer 2023. At Conroe High School is our 9th grade classroom addition, where we're adding some capacity to handle that freshman class that's coming. We've been reporting the inside of the building is in really good shape. It is essentially finished. We've been working on the outside, so you can see the yard taking shape now, and you can see the new outdoor dining area. We've got 2 of these outdoor dining areas on that campus to help us deal with that population and make sure everybody's got a place to eat during the day. But the project is essentially done. We'll wrap it up this month, and next month we'll bring you one more update to certify it is finished, and then we'll be done with that project. We've got Flex 22. Which is scheduled to open in August of 2023, as Ms. Blake said just a minute ago. That is in the Grand Oaks feeder zone, so from this angle, you can actually see Clark Intermediate in the top of the picture there. But on this site, the developer is working on the streets and roads and infrastructure around us, which are Lexington Boulevard is done and drivable. The street in front of the school is stabilized. They're getting ready to pour the concrete over the next several weeks there. As on our site, you're looking at the pictures of the foundations are in. The grade beams for the building slabs are being installed currently. And we're looking forward to the next couple of months where we receive the steel, and that begins a vertical structure as well. So this time next year, these pictures will look like what you just witnessed at Gordon Reed. It is on schedule. Like I said, it's scheduled to open for students in August of 2023. Now, we also have a new maintenance and child nutrition facility over on FM 2854, so that project is underway as well. Clearing is done. Now we're working on the excavations for the building pads and creating those building slabs so that we can get that project moving forward. So our new maintenance, or our maintenance department and the custodial, as well as our child nutrition, will be housed at this particular facility, and we're scheduled to open that in the summer of 2023. At Caney Creek High School, this is our 6A upgrades project where we're helping Caney Creek increase the capacity of their programs as they make the transition to 6A next year. So it's been demolition and cut out, and now it's starting to put things back in those locker rooms. Our current focus is on the athletics venues to create larger spaces so that they can accommodate the larger team sizes in the 6A category. As we move into the summer, we're going to begin the work on the new front door and the other safety and security features of that building. So over the summer, we're going to get the front door erected up, and in theory, we're going to have it ready for school when it opens in August, so that the campus will have a better functional and more visible front door for the campus. That project is underway. We'll be on that campus through the summer of 2023 overall. And the only thing left to talk about that I haven't updated is Collins Intermediate, where we have our PE classroom addition, which has been approved. We've been preparing everything, so we'll start on that campus in earnest when the summer break starts. So I'll give you some pictures of that one next month. But that's our update.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Any questions?
Standing.
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to item 7A, consider award of RFP 211004, office supplies. Mr. Rick Reeves.
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Null. Tonight, we're requesting that the board considers awarding RFP 211004, office supplies to Daniel Office Products for an estimated annual expenditure of approximately $900,000. The request for proposals pertaining to the purchase of office supplies for the district was emailed to registered vendors through the electronic e-bidding system, advertised 2 times in the Courier and also on the CISD purchasing website. Vendors were asked to provide line item and catalog pricing for various office supply products for the district. We had 3 vendors submit a bid response. Line item prices will be effective for 1 year from time of award, automatically renewing annually for 2 additional 1-year terms through May of 2025. Proposals were evaluated by the purchasing department. Funds are provided in the general and federal funds. Best value offers are recommended for board award, and at this time, we request your approval.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or conversation? See? Yes, sir.
You said there was 3 people that awarded. Who were the 3? Do you have that handy?
Yes, sir.
They weren't awarded. Those
Well,
are.
I mean,
3 that
that submitted. I'm
responded.
sorry, I'm sorry,
Better
3 that
Business
submitted.
Products, Daniel Office Products, and Standard Office Products.
Daniel, Standard, and who?
The last one was Butler Business Products.
And then if I heard you, you said that it does every 1 year and that renews automatically
Yes,
for
sir.
2 more, but we
Yes,
can
sir.
cut them off if something goes screwy there, okay?
Yes, sir.
So the automatic means provided.
Yes, sir.
I'm good.
All right. Anything else? All right, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Very good. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on, while you're still up there, we'll do item B, consider award of RFP 220204, custodial supplies.
Once again, we're requesting the board considers awarding RFP 220204 for custodial supplies to the vendors listed below for an estimated annual expenditure of $995,000. The recommended vendors are A Smart Restaurant Supply Company, Buckeye Cleaning Center Houston, Competitive Choice Incorporated, Crown Paper and Chemical, Genesis 2 Incorporated, Gulf Coast Paper Company Incorporated, Matera Paper Company, also known as Ferguson, Mercy Distribution LLC, MSC Industrial Supply Company, Pyramid School Products, also known as Pyramid Paper Company, and Western BRW Paper Company Incorporated is also known as High Point. The request for proposals pertaining to the purchase of custodial supplies for the district was emailed to registered vendors through the CISD e-bidding system, advertised in the Courier and also on the CISD purchasing website. Unit pricing was requested for warehouse stock items, and a catalog discount was requested to quote additional non-stock custodial supplies. 22 vendors submitted a response. Line item prices and/or discounts are to be effective for 1 year from time of award, automatically renewing additionally for 2 additional 1-year terms. Proposals were evaluated by the custodial and warehouse departments and reviewed by the purchasing department. Best value offers are recommended for board award, and funds for these purchases are provided in the general fund. At this time, we request your approval.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
A motion and a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Questions? All right, very good. I'll call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. And any opposed by the same sign. Very good. Motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. Reeves. Moving on to item 8, receive our financial reports. Ms. Garza.
Good
Good evening, President Hubert, members of the board, and Dr. Knoll. It is my pleasure this evening to present the financial statements as of April 30th. Our first statement this evening is the balance sheet. Balance sheet shows the district's assets, liabilities, and fund balance. Presented here is the general fund, the debt service fund, child nutrition, and self-funded insurance. Looking at our cash and investments in the general fund, we have $180.9 million in the pools, $39.3 million at Wood Forest National Bank. U.S. Bank, our shorter-term investments at $44.8 million, and TCG, our longer-term investments, $53.4 million, for total cash and investments in the general fund of just shy of $319 million. This is our income statement. The income statement shows the district's revenues and expenditures. Total revenues in the general fund year-to-date, $496.9 million. Total expenditures of $348.7 million. Our 2019 bond referendum update, we have funds encumbered and expended life to date of the bond of $401 million, remaining $249.1 million. We are currently working on the sale of the remaining $165 million that will complete all bonds authorized in the 2019 referendum. Self-funded insurance update, we did see a little bit of a reprieve in April, although still running at a deficit for the month of just over $500,000. Year-to-date revenue is $35.9 million. Year-to-date expenses at $38.6 million. We are anticipating any day now the rebate for pharmacy for the period of January through March, which should be in the $800,000 range. So that should help with our deficit for the year. Although we are approaching summer months, which tends to be a very busy time for the plan. So we will continue to monitor that. Our investments as of April 30th, par value just over $700 million. The pools are yielding 46 basis points. Although this was as of the end of April, I looked this morning, they're already at 86 basis points, so rates are moving very quickly. Our investments with Wood Forest are at 64 basis points. Our shorter-term investments, 55. Our longer-term investments with TCG are at 77, and our combined portfolio is at 50 basis points. Compared to the 90-day T-bill, we are trending slightly behind, which is normal in this rate environment. We're at 81 basis points for our 90-day T-bill.
Understood.
Ms. Garza?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just had one question. On the TCG, how far out are we laddering? Is that 2 years?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yes.
3 years. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking out loud, but, you know, it seems like the 2-year seems to give us a little better. Is that something we can talk with TCG
Yes,
about?
absolutely. I actually just met with them last week regarding the portfolio, and that is the time period that they're really focusing on, is that 24-month period.
Good.
Where they're seeing the best return.
Because that seems to be the best value for the length of term.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
I believe the longest we can go is 3 years.
I think, I
That
thought
is
so.
correct.
That's the longest we want to go. Yeah,
Yes.
we don't want to go out any further than that, but
Right.
2 just seemed to be a little bit better rate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Garza. All right, board, believe it or not, we do not have executive session tonight. So we can move on to item 12, which is legal. So A, consider withdrawing May 2nd, 2022 proposal to non-renew. Is that what we're doing? Yeah. Okay, making sure. To non-renew the term employment contract Orikosi Osmelli and authorize the superintendent to give Ms. Osmelli notice of this action.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Trustees withdraw the proposed non-renewal of term contract employee Oriakose Osamele.
A second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor show by the uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. All right, item B, nominate candidates to the TASB Board of Directors. I think this is,
Mr. President, I move that we nominate Scott Moore in that position.
all right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
The third.
Do we have an exception of the
I
nomination?
will accept the nomination if no one else is interested.
Not it.
Yeah. You go right ahead.
Not it.
All right, very good. So we have a motion and a second. And any more discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion, show by uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Any abstentions? Very good, Mr. Moore. Congratulations, condolences, whichever it is. It is you.
Go get them.
Tag, you're it.
That's right. Item C, select delegate to the TASB Delegate Assembly.
You're gonna do it to me again, aren't you?
Well, it's only fitting, right?
Since you're already gonna be there.
Right.
Already there.
We don't need,
All right. Do we have a selection?
I'm nominate, board member, Mr. Scott Moore.
All right.
Second.
Motion.
Have a motion and a section, and a second. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor show by uplifted hand. Any opposed by the same sign? Very good, Mr. Moore. Congratulations again.
Go get them.
The fastest I've ever seen y'all nominate somebody, and
Unanimous acclamation.
All right. Item D, discussion regarding the potential policy revision relating to library material.
all right, thank you, Mr. Hubert, appreciate it. I'm gonna ask Dr. Hines to come forward and we'll start with a little timeline, but as you know, this is a conversation that we started last month. It's kind of an ongoing conversation, as you can see from our timeline. We received information from TEA. They released a letter on April 11th. We received it on April 12th, which was the week before our last board meeting, that they were going to make some recommendations to us. We were closed on that Friday and Monday for Easter. So we came to the board meeting, we had an initial conversation with you all, and at that time, we pledged to you to continue working through this process and looking at potential ideas. Just yesterday, TASB released their initial draft policies that, for us to consider. Once again, TASB doesn't make draft recommendations to us, you all set policy. I mean, they just give us frameworks, but we were able to look through that and glean some information, but I think there'll be more learning that we'll do moving forward. But tonight, what we wanted to bring to you was sharing some of what we've already been doing throughout this year, things that we've already put in place, and then we do have a few recommendations of things that we could recommend potentially considering now. I'll just kind of remind you, and Ms. Gladys will correct me when I make a mistake, but we'll see a couple of different things here. You'll see policy and procedure. And just a reminder, policy is official board policy that you all put into place. To have an official change of policy, if you all make recommendations tonight and ask us to make potential changes to policy, we would bring those back to you in June as a policy for you to consider. And changing policy takes 2 months. So you would receive the policy next month, you would officially vote to change policy in July. That's the changing policy takes a 2-month process. Procedure are more of the ways that we as staff, work to implement policy, but those aren't things that you would all have to vote on that take the time. So just want to make that distinction as we go through and share. And I know Dr. Hines has got information here to share with us.
And Dr. Knoll did a great job of kind of walking through this process. And I think we'll start with just a few things. And we shared some of this previously of things that we've already started doing or have done and completed already this year. We've discontinued the use of suppliers that substitute titles. We've talked about that. That's been one of the frustrations where we get titles that nobody ordered, and we receive those. We've also begun reviewing our current instructional materials for compliance. And again, one of the things you're going to see in our recommendations, we're going to talk about separating our library policy from our instructional material policy. And really, even though they're all instructional materials, but we have really started looking at everything. And so I think it's that question of, and they're all moving targets. If you think about the things when we subscribe to, whether it's software applications or online textbooks, right? Things that we adopt and we purchase could change. And so we have to go back and periodically review it to make sure it still meets our selection criteria. And works that fail to meet this selection criteria will be removed from the collection. And so really starting to look at that, and have begun that process already. We also are working with the district's library management software company to make it easier for our parents to, one, access their child's checkout history, approve their child's library selections, and or designate materials their child cannot check out. And so trying to, again, put in some things to give some more flexibility for our parents. And then, and I think a really important one, as we speak to our library, is hiring a district-level library science specialist. And I think that would really help us as a large district with so many libraries, really trying to coordinate the selection and implementation practices that are in place. So these are things that are already going on or have happened. And really want to move to some of these things that are under consideration. Again, one would be to create a new local policy to address the selection of library books, and that was part of that TEA draft policy that they released, was one specifically for the library selection. And in that policy, and these would be some things that are in addition to what we currently have, which we have many of the same things that are in their policy are already in our policy. But one would be to add as a criteria for selection that works must be free from harmful material that's described by Texas Penal Code 4324 to determine if library books are educationally appropriate. And another change could be that we would, during the formal reconsideration process, that works would only be available with parent permission during that time. So actually being able to move them to a restricted shelf while we're going through the process of reconsidering. In addition, we want to look at whether we want to develop an ongoing review process to ensure collections meet district selection criteria. And that's something that we're going to have to do. And again, we need a person in that role to help kind of coordinate that and really to ensure that our collections meet district selection criteria, and then that we are removing the works that do not meet that criteria. And then finally, one of the areas that we really want to continue to expand is our staff training regarding the selection of instructional resources. And we think that's really important. And, you know, we have staff that come and go each year. And, you know, we have to keep kind of revisiting policies with staff regarding what our board policy is for selecting materials. And really that's important, as we've learned so many things, is that people find great ideas on the web, they find great lessons somewhere else, and they want to bring them in and use them in class, and that's been going on in the history of school. You know, it's just one of those things we have to remind folks to make sure that what we're using meets our criteria. Yes, sir.
It says during the formal reconsideration process, works would only be available with parent permission. What's the formal reconsideration process?
So that's when someone would provide a written request that materials be looked at and reconsidered, whether it meets our criteria for selection. And so, and really, our librarians and our teachers do a great job in this area. Do we bat 1,000? No, but they do a great job. We've had, prior to whatever we received this evening, we've had 7 challenges in the last 20 years. And so, you know, our teachers do a great job in this area, but certainly, you know, we want to continue to look at our processes and our policies to make sure we're doing everything we can.
Dr. Hines, but the purpose of that is, to respect to your question, during the formal reconsideration process, works would only be available with parent permission. It's because we can't fully withdraw the book and pull it. So while it is under the consideration, we can limit the access, and at least if a student, the way I understand it, if the student wants to check one of these books out, the parent has to be notified, say, hey, this is what's going on. This book is under review. We need to make sure you're aware that this is going on. Are you okay with this?
Correct. And under current policy, the current policy as it reads now says that we cannot restrict access during the formal review process. It's stated in policy. So this would be a change to current policy that would allow us to put in this, this level of parental involvement into a book that was in the challenge process.
I think this would be something akin to what Ms. Crow spoke to during public comment about an administrative leave for the book while it's being considered.
Yes.
Once a formal challenge is made, it's pulled from general circulation and not allowed general access by any student while the investigation and the reconsideration are underway.
I get that, and I support it to an extent. I can understand it if the campus administrator or librarian or even a district level decides that a work, a book, a literary, whatever it is may or may not be appropriate, and we go through the process. But for parents to arbitrarily say, this book is inappropriate, and we freeze that book or limit the access, I think that's a slippery slope.
I don't think that's what happens, though. I
Well,
think
that's
my
what, that's how to explain.
No, but the process is like a person can't just come in and say, I view this as discriminatory or as, just listen to me. It doesn't, I don't think they can do that, but they have to file a formal complaint, right? So that means they have to have read the book and they have to fill out the form. So now it's under review, and if a student wants to have access to that book, they can still have access to that book while it's under review. It's just that a parent needs to authorize that they can have that book.
Is that the case?
It would be the case, and I think, to answer your question too, and all of this has got slippery slope to it. And I think, and I'm not a lawyer and I won't practice law, so Carrie will correct me, but there was that case of the protecting First Amendment right of students that's often referred to in our policy, right, which is the PICO case. And really, that law set aside, really the main takeaway was we don't get to, once we put books on the shelves, we don't get to unilaterally and arbitrarily just say, no, you can't read that anymore. There has to be some reason for removing it. And I think there's two challenges that we have found, and those reasons can't be because we don't like the ideas or it doesn't espouse something I believe. It has to be for things that we talk about in our selection criteria, right? Which would be if it's pervasively vulgar or if it's something that wouldn't meet our criteria.
Right. So just to clarify, my point is.
Your mic over.
To clarify what my point was, what point I was trying to make. You guys are making a determination if it does meet those criteria of being harmful, if you will, as opposed to a parent arbitrarily saying, a Tom Sawyer or whatever the book may be, some Dr. Seuss book is harmful and I want it to be put on probation until you guys reconsider it. That's my question.
And I think the
Is that the case?
answer is anybody can challenge in our current system, and that doesn't change. Anybody can challenge whether that instructional material belongs on our shelves. And we go back to all of our instructional materials are available for inspection and review by the public. And parents have a right to see what their child's going to read. And parents have a right to make some decisions about that. But their objections may not be objections that other parents share. And so just because somebody challenges a book doesn't mean it gets pulled off the shelf. It does go through a process of let's look at it and let's get a committee together and review it and make sure this is still what we want on our shelf and that it meets our criteria based on our board policy for selection.
Is this my challenge?
Would
My
you-
challenge
yes,
is
ask that again.
essentially this. What I'm understanding, what I'm hearing is that if a parent decides that if a book should be challenged, they can issue a formal complaint and that book is on reconsideration and goes through a formal reconsideration process. And then during that process, if my son wanted to see that book, he has to wait till you guys finish this process.
Or get your permission.
Or get my permission. Okay, what if, because it's easy to cut and paste, what if a parent decides that all of these books, let's say that, for instance, one of the speakers, all of these books need to go through reconsideration. Another parent decide we got a whole nother list that need to go through reconsideration. During this process, I got a half-empty library, all right, and my kid can't look at any books because all these parents find something objectable. I find some objectable with pretty much all the history books, all right, but I'm not there filing whatchamacallit. My job is to educate my kids, more so what's right and what's not correct relative to those books, right? They're subject to bias based on authors, who write the books. So my question again is, does a parent unilaterally get to decide that we put our books on probation, our formal reconsideration process?
Yes.
So to answer that, the way this is worded in this recommendation, yes.
Okay.
Now, this is a recommendation, this is not policy that has been voted on.
I'm
This
trying to
is your-
understand what
so
you're gonna be asking
you-
me to approve.
What you could, one change that you could make would be to put the word may instead of would.
How long is the reconsideration process?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And some of that I think depends on how many we have, right?
Right.
And so we can only go through so many at a time. And it's
On
a,
average, like now.
We've only had 8 in 20 years, so it's.
Yeah,
Okay,
but you
so,
open the floodgates here.
Of those 8,
Yeah.
Our procedure says that we try to have the decision issued in 45 school days.
45 schools.
Because people have to read them, read the books in their entirety, come back together, to write a report, issue it
okay.
to the.
But it's not limiting a student to have access to the book. It's just allowing parents to be aware
Yeah, but
what the student is trying to
I
check out.
get that, but you're
That's all.
still stifling. Now I got to be involved in everything that some other parent decide to challenge. Somebody's going to challenge every religious book there is in that library, right? Now it's on punishment for 45 days until we decide it's educationally appropriate, right? Somebody else decide, hey, hell, I ain't got plenty of time on my hand. Let me go challenge some books at the library. I have no kids in the school system. I just want to be go on some crusade relative to school books. So I got a library half full of books that y'all are sending notes home to me. Can your kid look at this book because it's on punishment?
Well,
I think we have a very real problem with some of the books we have with the
Yeah.
language. What you're saying, very respectfully, my good friend, Mr. Williams, you're saying a kind of a straw man argument. You're saying they're gonna be half empty. I just don't think that's gonna happen.
You're saying we have all these
I know we
inappropriate
do.
books on the shelf. I mean, we're all making assumptions, right?
Well, I've seen them though.
Right. But you said, how many books have you seen out of Roden Court? I mean, you gonna count how many books? I tell you what, I would challenge you to go to any one of our libraries and point out 3 of those books.
Dr. Noel's been very helpful in that I asked him to a list of how many of each copy of these books do we have and where are they? And I've got the email right here of how many books we have and where are they.
I mean, how many schools
I know
we
they're
have?
there.
How many books we have? Do a ratio. Do a percent. Do
How
something.
many unique books?
we
I
have
got a problem with all
about
the Dr. Seuss
one
books,
point,
all of them.
1.25 million.
1.25 million books.
titles.
Exactly.
We have how many? 1.25 million, is that what you said?
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
How many would be acceptable for being sexually graphic? I would say 0. I would think 0, so it's not a percentage ratio issue here, it's, I gave an example, if we had 1 rattlesnake in this building, we'd say, well, it's only 1.
No, we're not saying
Well, we
that.
say, no,
We're
that's
not
a
saying
serious
that.
problem.
We're saying if you have a building and rattlesnakes around, there's bound to be one to get in. We're not saying it's acceptable for it to get in. That's not what we're saying, so don't make that analogy. Just don't hold water here.
Yeah, but 1 second, I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to talk. So let's do our best to allow our board members to fully say their point before we jump in. Mr. Inman.
I think 0 is the correct number that we should have in our school libraries, the teachers' classrooms. A separate issue I think we should discuss either tonight or probably tonight, is I understand there's 2 issues. Once it's on the shelf, there's one way of handling it. I also think we need to have a better safety net on stopping it from getting on the shelf to begin with. Because that would stop, I think, a lot of this.
Well, and absolutely, I think that's one of the things that we want to, with our library specialists, we want to do a
that's the
better
first
job
bullet
of
there as well.
the selection process. Yes.
I will say this. If 0 is what's acceptable, right, is what we hope to achieve, that's correct. We're continuously hoping to achieve that. Will we ever attain that? No. If you are going to attain that, you're going to have to move all the books out of the library. That just is what it is. There's no way to attain 0, some 0 level that you're hoping to attain as long as we got a human element associated with teaching our kids. That's just the reality of it. So a pursuit of it, just like this Christian walk, is a continuous walk. Just like this pursuit of excellence, it's a continuous pursuit, right? And so we're going to continue to try to do our best. That's the expectation. But for us to continue to go down this path where we're going to have an absolute is unrealistic.
Well, I'm going to agree with what you're saying to a point, because I think the extremes, I think, are fairly agreeable,
I agree with that.
agreeable, right? But the problem that has come to light is we have some extreme books that are in our libraries now, and I'm of the opinion that we need to put something in there that protects, that allows them to be pulled off in some type of immediate manner to go through. And I hear what you're saying. I don't know how that would, I don't know how that would be implemented. I don't know yet, but I do know that we've got some inappropriate books that are pornographic that need to be addressed.
I think we're
And
saying the
I want to
same
make
thing.
sure that we pull them off immediately.
I'm saying the same thing you guys are saying. I 100% agree if we have something that's blatantly inappropriate, we need to pull it off. I take serious issue with a parent arbitrarily saying this is inappropriate, and we're putting that book. If you see a book as an administrator right? Who we've entrusted our kids with. If you deem that book to be inappropriate and you pull it off the shelf, I have no issue with that. But from some of the comments I've heard like this tonight and throughout my time of sitting on the board meeting, I would very, very much so be concerned with putting that trust in general folks in the community to come in and arbitrarily say, that book is inappropriate, let's put it in timeout.
So,
Mr. Moore.
so there are.
I trust parents, just not.
And I'm gonna address Mr. Williams' point and Dr. Hines, if I'm jumping ahead in your presentation here, I'll hold my statements, just let me know. You know, there are 28 things that we are legislatively mandated to do. And one of the primary things is to represent the values of our constituents on this board. And so if there are constituents who have issue with instructional materials, it's our legislative duty as a body to address those concerns and see that the values of the community are represented in the district. So ultimately, it falls on us. If there's one community member who says, I oppose, or I object to this piece, this work for X reason, it's our job to ultimately determine if that meets our community standards. So.
I agree with that.
So where I'm going with this is when I looked at the drafts of this, it talked about the committee that would gather to review this, and there has to be a teacher who's read the book. And then it says there may be community member, parent, administrator, things like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anywhere on there it said board member on that committee. And I think we need to have one of the 7 of us sitting on those reviews because it is our legislative duty to see that the community standards are upheld.
Look, I don't have a problem with them. I have a problem with the community coming in and saying, in general, parents, I'm not saying that we're not representing the community. I understand my duty as a board member, been doing this for over 10 years. My understanding as I read this potential policy is that folks can just come off the street and say, I challenge that book. Now, 45 days, that book has to sit on the sideline, right? And some of the books you guys, folks in the audience, hold extremely dear and near. You know, so be careful. The very books that you hold near and dear will be some of the ones, the very books that are challenged. And you'll be back up here whining and crying about the school board isn't addressing the needs of the constituents. But every constituent that says no, I got 5 that says yes. Slippery slope.
I don't disagree with that thought, Mr. Inman.
I was going to say, just to be clear, I think we're specifically talking as it relates to the obscenity laws of 43.24. I don't think it's all books, or specifically, and maybe we're all on the same page and I got off. It's specifically books that are harmful material whose dominant theme appeals to the prurient interest of a minor in sex, nudity, or bodily excretion, is patently offensive to prevailing standards of the adult community.
So do you think the constituents are going to read that before they go up there and make those?
Well, we can put that in the policy.
If I can, if I could make a suggestion here, I think I'm hearing what you're saying. It's not the way that it's written here. What's written here is that any challenge would put the book in timeout, right? But we could rewrite this to say a book that challenges, a book that is challenged on the basis of Texas Penal Code 4324 would be evaluated to be put in timeout. Because I understand what you're, I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Williams, but what I'm hearing is the concern that we start with sexually graphic books, and I'm hearing you say you agree with that, get those off the shelf. But the concern is, if all of a sudden we start to challenge other types of books because maybe we just disagree with the historical context or whatever it may be, and all of a sudden, you know, or who the author was, or whatever the demographics of something, that all of a sudden we could find ourselves putting a ton of books on the sideline based on things that are not about being sexually explicit. So we could rework that, I think, in the policy, simply to say,
as it relates
if they're challenged based on this Texas Penal Code, and then they would be.
If you deem that it's within a challengeable item within a penal code, yes, I would be okay with that.
Okay, then we can.
Okay, well, we're good.
We'll work on that.
Well, that's kind of what I thought. I thought we were talking about 2 different kinds of books here, maybe, and that's why I thought maybe.
But I think,
But it becomes
typically,
subjective
Mr.
if you leave it open. If you leave it open to interpretation, it becomes, that net is cast a whole lot wider than we expected to. We're not fishing with a pole anymore, we're fishing with a cast net. So,
Right.
two different concepts.
So,
Mississippi.
my first recommendation would be to be sure that one of the 7 of us sits on those reviews and not just receives a report from other people, because like I said, it ultimately falls on us, and I think one of us needs to be represented there. Second is, we've also got sort of 2 avenues, I think, that these materials are reaching our student. One is through the library, and one is through classroom assigned readings.
Yes.
Okay? And I don't know if this would fall under policy or procedure, and Dr. Knoll, Dr. Hines, y'all help me out with that part. But I think we need to look at a campus level review, and that might be different for each age group, whether that's a team leader, whether that's an assistant principal, whether that's a literacy coach, somebody who, when an English teacher says, here's a list of 6 books that you can choose from to read, there's been some form of check and balance on that campus level that says that it's not one of these that we know we've already determined to be sexually offensive, or you know, something along those lines, where there's a second layer and not just an individual teacher saying, here's the books to choose from.
And
Absolutely.
and we've done that.
We've already started those conversations, and that's part of that ongoing review. And again, I think we want to distinguish between the library
Right.
and what we do in a classroom,
Absolutely.
right? Because a library is a place where you make a choice to go in and pick a book you're interested in or something you want to read. And in class, we're giving you this to read as part of our curriculum. And I think there is a different standard in terms of what makes it into one place and what makes it into the other. And we certainly have been spending some time, and I believe over time they get blurred, right? So people are going to think, well, if it's in the library, it's open game. Well, no, not necessarily. Just because it's in the library doesn't mean that everybody wants their child reading that book. And we need to be very thoughtful about the selections that we're making that we use in class. And so we've been having those discussions, and we're certainly looking at it. At the same time, we want to find those titles because it's part of our selection process that kids are interested in, right, or that are challenging, or that make them think, and expose them to different ideas. So the selection criteria that we have in our current board policy is very good, and we're using it. I think we want to go back and again look at expanding our description and then doing a better job of making sure people understand our policy and really being thoughtful about the selections that we're making. So,
But I think that also drives home why we should have parent involvement in this, because the teachers are doing what they can, the libraries are doing what they can, or the librarians are doing what they can, but you mentioned that we have had in the past some vendors that do title changes, and we don't know about those title changes, so everybody's doing their diligent march as much as they can, but it's the parent that sees what's sitting on the kitchen table that the kid may have checked out that didn't go through a librarian or that didn't go through a teacher. So that's why we should have that parent involvement to say, hey, this is what came up, and then we can still have this process to address it.
Didn't go through a library. Are any of the challenges related to classroom mandated readings?
Yes.
yeah, they come up. Those will come up. And generally, that probably happens is the main source of a challenge, really, because generally people don't go check out books they don't want to read.
Yeah.
And so it really, most challenges stem from an assigned reading in class.
Assigned reading, okay.
Or a reading list that's provided.
And then oftentimes in those assignments, there's still choice, but we don't feel like that absolves us from still being responsible for the list.
Right.
Right? That's part of the conversation that we've had with our teachers, or with our campuses recently, is that just, when we put it on a list of potential approved books for an assignment, we are giving a different level of approval for a book versus if it's just on a library shelf.
Yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
difference there, right? And so that's where we need to draw that distinction, and we've already had those conversations with the campus level. Those have been initiated.
Is it possible also to provide us with an update on the challenged books, where they originate from, whether they're library or whether they're assigned reading, and how many are in quarantine or whatever we want to say, timeout, and then how many don't we revoke? Like how many the reconsideration process puts back on the shelf, and how many don't make it back.
Yes, we could.
We will provide that. Somewhere I had that, and I don't have it with me, but
Okay.
somewhere I had written down, like, how many of those challenges were removed.
I would
and-
like to know that, yeah.
And ultimately, as Mr. Moore pointed out, and I've been saying this for a while now, the 7 of us are responsible for this. At the end of the day, and President Hubert, you and I spoke the other day, and I said, I know we've had these books here 20 years and they haven't been checked out, we've only had 8. That doesn't mean the information wasn't there, just no one knew it. But now that we have a known hazard, I believe, we are, I think, obligated to remedy it. And Mr. Hubert, what I told you the other day, in 2025, 2026, whatever it is, someone gave me this book and they said, was this in your library while you were on the board? Yes. What'd you do to get it off the shelf? That's going to be on us. Our names are there as the board members. So even if we have a policy, we're still responsible for these books being on the shelves. We cannot abrogate that responsibility to anyone else but us 7. So we might have some robust discussions. That would be healthy, I think.
Sounds like we're gonna have to go walk through the libraries ourselves.
Do you know what? Don't think I didn't think about that. I absolutely did think about that, saying I'm just gonna start walking through and looking at books. But I declined. But we are responsible for that.
Mr. President,
We can't abrogate that to any, we can't, I think it's great that we're hiring, you know, if we decide to hire this staff person for the library, I think it's great. It's us. We cannot abrogate the responsibility. We can send someone else to duty. We can delegate the duty to them. We can't delegate responsibility to them. That's us.
Mr. Sanders?
Thank you. I'm in complete agreement that we should remove harmful material from our children's bookshelves. I do not want my children reading what was read out tonight. I also believe that we need to be following what guidance the TEA has given us. I believe fully in parental involvement. I'm glad that parents are involved in their children's reading. I think that's important that they do that. These are just bullet notes that I've written down, and I may go back and speak on a couple of them, but you know, I want to understand and I want to approve this criteria selection. I want to understand, I know it's in our policy, and I know we approve our policies once a year, but that's what, 485 pages I'm expected to read, and it's hard to do that, and so I may have missed something, and to Mr. Inman's point, it is our responsibility, and so I take that seriously. I like Mr. Moore's idea of having a board representative on the selection process. One of the things that we've only had 8 challenges in the last 20 years. I've only been on the board 12, but I don't ever recall hearing about a book challenge. And I think as a board member, I'd like to receive notice if there's a book challenge. Since it's one of our responsibilities statutorily, I'd like to know what's being at least looked at, what parent. I don't need to know the parent's name. I don't need to know who the child is. I just want to know the name of the book. And I want to understand what the reasoning behind that is, and I want to understand what the school district's determination is, and I may want to challenge the school district's determination at that point. So I just want to be aware of that. I also believe, it says ongoing review process. I want to understand what that's like. Because one of the things that we've talked about a little bit is teachers may bring in outside materials. I know it's happened, and I know it's caused some controversy because they didn't review them when they presented them, and so I want to understand that there's got to be some sort of an approval process. If they're bringing in outside materials, that it's got to go through this ongoing review process before they can use it in their classrooms. I have a daughter who's a public school teacher. I know she wants to bring in things too, but I believe there also ought to be a process to do that. And then finally, I want to understand the difference between instructional materials that we're using and then just books in the library. Again, because I want to make sure that what we're doing instructionally in no way is presenting any kind of this material as well that could be inappropriate. And as a parent, I would want to know well before anything like that ever happened. So I think we should create a policy, a local policy on our own that includes a lot of these things. We can include some of the TEA language. I haven't seen the TASB recommendation, but I would be interested in looking at that. But I think this is probably one of the few that really is going to have a very local policy flavor. It's our community and it's our community standards. And we have to determine as a board that we represent all of the children in the district as well as all the parents and all of the taxpayers, we need to be mindful of what that standard looks like, and then we need to be responsible for making sure that it's maintained. Thank you.
Yep, great point. Very good. Mr. Hines, or Dr. Hines, continue.
We're gonna, well, I think that's the bulk of it.
that's
I
it,
think, I
okay.
think what we were wanting tonight and we're hearing is our homework, right? What we're gonna work on in terms of draft policies to bring back for you to look at.
Dr. Hines, can you remind me of the policy that we have now for parents when they do have something that they want, that they don't want their children reading? What is the library policy or the checkout policy now?
So, and in our EF, it's in our EF local, and a parent or district student, any employee, district resident may formally challenge an instructional resource using the district's educational program on the basis of appropriateness. And then it talks about there's an informal process where we encourage them to come up and learn why we picked this, why we're using this in this class, why did we pick this material. And then it spells out these 4 steps. You know, we're going to explain it. We're going to explain the intended educational purpose, the resource. If appropriate, we'll offer an alternative material. And if they want to make a formal challenge, we explain that process, and that begins that. And then there's, if we talked about informal reconsideration, there's a form you have to fill out, right? You have to read the book, and you have to answer some questions and submit that. And then they'll bring that. We form a committee within so many days. We'll have the committee read the book, read the material. Hopefully there are people that know something about the subject, right, that are informed and able to bring their opinion. We'll review the material, make a decision, and then once that decision is made, that the complainant has the opportunity to appeal that to you. And so they certainly compile, and we've had one that I've dealt with about 17 years ago, maybe 16 years ago that we had that made it to the board level, and so we certainly have had those. So I think that's part of that, and that's in general how the process works now. And again, we're trying to look at what are things we can do to make it easier, but at the same time, you know, really, and Mr. Williams made a great point, but not making open season on books. And really, how do we be thoughtful about this?
Yeah, targeted what I think everybody up here is in agreement on that we don't want, like to go get those things right away and easier. That's part of what we're trying to work into this system. That gives us the ability to go get those quickly. Because as we said, right now, the current policy says if it's been challenged, we can't remove it. We're asking for that change because we want some of that flexibility to give us, as administrators, the ability to see that and be able to make a move. And then to kind of answer a little further into your question, that's the process for challenging. But right now, if I'm a parent and I'm worried about what my child may check out, I can communicate to my campus and have your child's account flagged so that it says like no mature themes or call me before every checkout. Like, so we have that already. It's available. Right now, it sort of functions outside of our library management system. That's why we're trying to get our vendor to work it in so that it's more seamless in the program. Because right now, for a parent, they can access what their child checks out. They just have to log in as their child, and they can see everything. But we're trying to make it cleaner on the parent side where they can, through their login, they can see all those things, and we can put more flags and more, just giving them more control seamlessly within the program. So that's part of the piece of that. But that's already there. Any parent that wants to have, be notified of any book or that exists. They can talk right now to their campus, and that happens.
Perfect, because I don't think that many parents realize that that is already in place.
Yeah.
That they can go ahead and flag certain genres that they don't want their children reading. That was my mother. I had a very strict mother. There are some books that I, to this day, have still not read. And so I know that that's very important to parents, and I think that's important that they know that that policy is in place. And so, I'm very happy that our board is here and taking this step, and that people have come to discuss this with us, and that we work on this together. And but at the same time, like my colleagues have said, that we look at our entire community, and then of course Once we do look at some books that may or may not end up staying in the library, that, again, those policies are in place so that parents that don't want children to read those books, just like my mother would have not wanted me to read something in particular, that they know that their children will not be able to get a hold of them without their permission, so.
And we had discussed months ago, Ms. Gladys and I, every year we update the student handbook. And so months ago, we had discussed putting that piece in the student handbook to notify parents, like if you want to make that notification, because you said some may not know that they can do that, so we want to make sure we tell parents that that's available. Hopefully, by the time we get to the point of approving next year's student handbook, we will have reached a point with our vendor where the technology integration is much simpler, and it'll be simply go to this site, make an account, and go in and put in your preferences. That would be our goal. And if our current vendor can't do it, we'll find one that can.
So this gives you guys the flexibility to either, if you see or an objection or a challenge is made, to decide to immediately pull a book?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's not saying that because a challenge was made, we're gonna immediately.
That's what we can change. That's part of what that's our homework for the month, right? Is to rewrite some of these things,
I just
bring
wanna make
back
sure
policies to
I'm
you all. to
understanding that clear.
I think we've heard you all, and the nice thing about this is it's on video. We'll go back and watch it again, like a good film study.
There you go.
Right? And we'll try to bring back recommendations next week in policy or next month in policy form for your feedback, and then we'll keep this moving, right? That's and we'll keep trying to make it better. That's our goal. I think sometimes we can get in it, and it's good discussion. But, when we focus on places where we see it differently, 99% of the things are everybody's on the exact same page. And that's where we want to make sure that we have the ability to go get those 99% things done.
Perfect. Would you?
There was something else that you asked, Ms. Wagaman, I think, and I wanted to clarify too, that sometimes during that challenge process, the outcome is not that the book is removed, but that it maybe you said, like, this isn't appropriate at this level. Like, maybe this is a high school book and not, it shouldn't be at the junior high, or this is for the junior high but not the elementary kind of a thing. So I did want to clarify that.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Hines, board, thank you so much for this conversation. Oh, you have something else?
So the two homeworks is one, you're gonna work on this policy as it relates to 43.24. And then secondly, I guess a policy as relating to books physically getting on the shelf in the first place.
Yeah,
So
I think that's
two
gonna be more of a
different-
procedure in a lot of ways, but yes, it will be addressed in our policy, and I think currently really is. We just need to clarify a few things about what is,
Well, the first
pervasively
bullet,
vulgar.
the first bullet there would be added to our selection criteria.
Okay, I see
So
it.
that would be added, right? And then that ongoing review process is what would allow us to, let's say we don't even have let's say a book has not been challenged, right? So no one has brought us a challenge, but an administrator or a staff member recognizes a book on a shelf that they feel like, you know what, like maybe that was a substitute title that was purchased 6 years ago and it got in. But they look at it and they say, you know what, I don't believe that meets our current selection criteria. That would allow us administratively to go back in and look and run it back through the selection criteria. And if we feel like it doesn't meet our current selection criteria, we could remove it from the collection without it ever being challenged. Like that's separate
done
from a
anyway.
parent challenge. That's an educator just working that process, which is what we would do instructionally on the instructional side all the time. It's just making sure that our folks understand we have that same ability to do it on the library side, right? So it's that we have that equal ability on both sides. So if you have strong, and our selection criteria is good, then you add this new bullet to it. Now it's got all the teeth there to run it back through.
And that's something we would expect the new library science staff to also do.
They would certainly help with the communication piece across, because sometimes we can find ourselves, we're so big, we can find ourselves at, having 64 independent worlds or 6 independent feeder worlds. So as part of that process the benefit of having this centralized person might be like, if we've identified a book at one place that doesn't meet the selection criteria, having that central person that can communicate that to all other campuses that they may not have seen it, but to be able to communicate out to them to say, hey, we've identified this book, it doesn't meet our selection criteria, we see that you may have one book in your, on your shelves, we need to go check for that.
But maybe just to clarify that. So, but if a book is challenged at a campus, it goes into quarantine for all the campuses?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. That's a challenge, be a different level, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And again, if we could, and I know we've said this a couple times, as it relates to 43.24, I think there's some
Yeah,
content out
yes,
there
it's-
that people may find objectionable, but it's not obscene.
Agreed.
That's a completely different animal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we
Yes.
want to keep laser focused on the.
Correct, so that we don't slip down a slope that takes us somewhere differently.
Perfect.
Yes, please.
That's
be
why we have a
specific.
checkout
Yes.
process.
Yes. Okay,
Any other comments?
thank you. Appreciate the conversation.
Yes, great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hines.
As it was put out there, this is our community, and there's, you know what, this is happening throughout school districts, and we're stepping up, and I appreciate Dr. Knoll, when we brought this up, you immediately jumped on and make sure that this was taken care of, because as Mr. Sanders said, it was a little embarrassing for me to hear that stuff being available, and so I appreciate everybody's willingness to want to jump on this and take care of this and take control of it immediately. So thank you, Dr. Hines. Okay, moving on to item E, discuss matters related to student confidentiality and Title IX. There isn't, it's just during open comment, but you can certainly call me later if you want and we can talk about it.
Appreciate having the ability to share this item, and this is one that we really do appreciate the chance to speak on, because we don't want confusion in the public, and it seems like we have confusion in the public, and it causes angst and concern and I feel bad about that, because I think it was unwarranted that we have people to be worried about this, and this is an issue of Title IX and student confidentiality, and this goes back to a training that was held at the beginning of the school year on one particular campus of ours, with a slide that was confusing to some that read it, and maybe some that received the training. We understand the intent of those that trained, but we also understand that, you know, how the message is received is also important. And so, back in December, Mr. Hubert, Ms. Wagaman, and I met with Representative Toth, and we discussed that issue, and I will own perhaps we poorly communicated, because I thought we left that meeting all on the same page, in agreement that Title IX really didn't have any place in the conversation, and that as a school district, we share all information with parents. I thought everyone was on the same page with that, until just in the last couple of weeks, the conversation has come up again, 5 months after the initial conversation, and evidently everybody was not on the same page. So I must have done a poor job of communicating that. So what we appreciate is the opportunity tonight to make sure that we communicate very clearly to our public exactly what we expect and exactly what we do, as it relates to sharing information with parents. And so Dr. Hines is going to just walk us through it a little bit. I think it's fairly clear, but we wanted to state it very publicly. So
Very clear and very short, just to clarify, when it comes to these questions about what do we communicate, what do we not communicate, and we are used to dealing with sensitive topics. I will tell you, during my years as a high school principal or as an assistant principal, or even as a teacher, the things that students would share is very often very sensitive, very personal. Parents are our partners in education. We will keep our parents informed of matters involving their children as parents. They are the ultimate decision makers, and we're not going to leave them out. So when a child tells me something, and the next question usually goes to, now how are we going to tell your mom and dad? Like, right, that's what we shift the conversation to, but we're going to get there. Families do have a right to privacy, and issues that are private are private, and we don't go sharing everybody's business with everybody else, and that's not going to change either.
And to clarify that, because there was confusion about that. The students have a right to privacy not from their parents. They have a right to privacy to everyone else. You know, it's not everyone else's business. That's their right to privacy, not between the student and their very own parent. That's just, we want to make sure that's clear.
And that also includes other families and staff members who do not have an educational interest to have that information. It's not their business either. So we do not share everything about every child with everybody, but we do with parents. And really, the only exception I can think of when it comes to parents are times when I've had to pick up the phone and call Child Protective Services. And that's really the only other time I've had to do that. Staff will participate in additional training on this topic. We will certainly make sure that everybody is clear. And we think we do a good job of this, but we want to do better. And so if we have misunderstandings, then there's certainly things that haven't been communicated very clearly, so we need to circle back, and we will. And that's really the overview of that.
Now, Dr. Hines, there may be a situation where a student may tell a teacher something, and the teacher may go to a counselor, and the counselor may present the information to the parent versus
absolutely.
the
And
teacher.
there are times where those discussions do take place, where somebody may receive some information that's a rather big thing, and they feel like they're not equipped to handle it, or they're trained to deal with this topic, and they'll bring it to somebody who is, maybe the administrator, the counselor, and generally from there, they'll do the communicating from there. That does happen, yes.
Well, what about in that scenario where a teacher feels obligated to talk to a parent about something that came out? And I'll use an extreme example. You know, maybe a young lady has come out and said that she's pregnant, right? Eventually, someone's going to find out. But in that moment, teacher says, "Hey, this is what a student came to me, and I want to talk to the parents about that." How is that handled?
Well, I think as a professional, people are going to do what they feel like they need to do professionally. And that's really going to be an individual decision, right? Somebody might feel strongly about it, and if they're in my office and we're talking about it, say, let's do it, all right? Or if they're comfortable letting somebody else handle it, because maybe we talk about it and say, hey, this is going to be tricky, the counselor's working with this student. It just depends. I mean, there's a whole continuum of reasons depending on the student and their situation.
And in a scenario like that, would a teacher, are teachers trained to go to a professional about something like that? You know, like in a math class, I would expect to hear from my son's math teacher about math. I'm not sure that I'm prepared to hear from my math teacher about something like that. So that's my question: are the teachers trained that when something is revealed to them that's sensitive in nature, such as the example I gave, even if they want to go to a parent, are they required or directed to go to the administration, to the counselors, to let them know and then come up with something, or are they allowed to go directly and take matters into their own hands?
Again, there's so many different situations and there's so many continuum. The answer is probably it just depends, right? But certainly we do a lot of training regarding certain things that have to be reported, right? But it doesn't, there's no way we do something on every scenario that could come up.
But the one thing we do on every scenario that comes up is it gets communicated to
It gets
parent.
communicated to parents.
It's
It's just the question is, are you going to be the one,
nuance there
or
is
am I going to do it?
how? Like, does it go through a counselor? Does it go directly from the teacher? That's where the nuance lies, but the end result is it gets communicated to the parent. That's the non-negotiable. I'm going to give an example from way back, and I'm going to go the way back machine when I was teaching. I was a high school teacher, had a student come to me that was pregnant. Of course, they start the conversation with, "I'm going to tell you something, but you can't tell anybody." Well, I'm going to tell you that may not be true. So you have to understand that if you share something with me, we may have to share. So that was shared with me. I went directly to the counselor because I was a second-year teacher and I had no idea what to do. None. Directly to the counselor and said, help me. I've been given this information, the child is saying, she can't tell her parents, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, what can we do? And the great guidance from the counselor of, well, we're going to tell the parent. And so, I went back to the student and said, we have to tell your parents, we're going to, you have tonight to tell them, or tomorrow I will, and we can do it together. The counselor can get involved. You can invite your parents up. There can be, however that conversation wants to go, you can control it tonight, but us keeping that information from your parent is not going to be an option. And so that, there's all this nuance, right? So sometimes it doesn't mean that you pick up the phone in that instant. Like in that situation, it was one of those like, student, you get one afternoon to go handle this with your parent. If that's what you're asking for, but beyond that, it's no. We have to get them involved, and so there are so many, as the first bullet, there's so much stuff that they deal with on a daily basis. So many scenarios that it's impossible to outline exactly how we would deal with any of those situations in the moment. But I'll say it one more time. The non-negotiable is that the parents are going to be notified.
There you go.
That's non-negotiable.
So I had a question.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing from some folks is if Johnny wants to go to school and says, call me Sally, is that going to be communicated to the parent?
Yes.
Any large thing like that. Now, if Johnny shows up one day and wears some, changes clothes into one thing on one day, and a junior high kid wears something interesting on a given day, people may go, what's going on? That it just may be a one-day thing. You see a pattern there. You see, a couple of days, or Johnny's verbalizing something. Yes, that'll be shared. Absolutely. And I want to just ask Ms. Gladys, because she's our official complaint receiver. Have we ever received a complaint from a parent regarding maybe the example that Mr. Inman just shared, from a parent that says we didn't communicate with them?
No, and as we know, I got my 25-year pin the other day.
Right.
No, we've never had a complaint thing.
Yes.
So, no, not about sharing
So
information.
I think
Look, I'm a parent. I got 3 kids in this school system. Whatever my kids, anybody that's an adult that's over 18 and see something my kids are doing, feel free to give me a call. Give me a call directly, and we'll get it taken care of. So I don't see why there's an issue with the communication between the parent and the students.
I can speak to that for a second, because I know that it's been communicated to me. I know it's been communicated to Mr. Inman that is not the case. That a specific scenario was something very sensitive was shared, and a teacher was told, you'll be fired if you tell the parents that. We keep that information from the parents. Now, that came from a source that, I have trusted until, recently, when I was given a picture of a math question that was told that it was something that was being taught in Wilkerson Elementary. And after we did an investigation, and it was, nope, this is what's happening in your schools, you gotta go take care of it. And after we did, we found out that that was a picture that was taken off of Twitter that was being spread around in Virginia. So it's embarrassing that that gentleman was either lied to or lied to me about that and got us worked up. So it makes me not believe the story, to be honest with you, but I am gonna check it out to make sure that a teacher is not being told that they will be fired if they share that information.
And I agree with you 100%. And I think from your experience, Mr. Inman's experience, any of your all's experience,
I had the same conversation.
Any specific examples that we are given of those things, we address. And this goes back to that example circles back to the same training on one campus, that one day, that one training that I was under the impression that we had it handled in December. And there had been no conversation. We'd received no official complaint. We had received no complaints here from staff members about that to investigate it. As I've told you, we welcome that. If we need to go back and if a mistake was made, we need to address it. And we don't hide behind that. I've never hidden behind mistakes. We're human here. And we have 10,000 humans that work here. We make mistakes. So if we made one, we'll address that. It doesn't change the policy sorry, Ms. Gladys. Doesn't change our procedure about what we expect and what we do as a general rule, okay? Even if a mistake was made, and once again, I don't have the details of that, and that has not been verified.
Right.
But if it was, we would handle it, and we would deal with it. But everything on this slide holds true. And this is what we want to make sure the community understands, that these are our expectations. We will follow up, once again, just to make sure that there's no confusion, and share this with counselors, assistant principals, and principals next year as we begin to train for next year, because we don't want any confusion. So that, we will take this, I would imagine, the same slide, and put it right in front of them, and make sure we coach directly from it.
Very good. Any other questions or thoughts?
Motion adjourned.
We're good? All right, I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconds. All in favor, shall by uplifted hand. Very good. We